In a world full of powerful anime protagonists, there's one chicken who stands among them. Enter Rooster Fighter, where the fate of the world lies on the beak of a rooster. In this strange yet surprisingly intense story, we follow Keiji, a wandering rooster who travels across a world under attack by terrifying demon creatures known as Kiju. Why does this rooster fight? And just how strong can he really be? Let's find out. At the start of this manga story, a monster with 3 heads, each having 2 arms, and a body with hands with no arms, was chasing people while destroying buildings. Because of this, a warning was released that a monster had invaded the city center, and people were told to evacuate from the region as fast as they could. Among those running was a mother and her child, but the boy named Yuki tripped, causing his mother to panic. In that accident, the monster picked Yuki up, which made his mother even more worried. The monster brought Yuki closer to one of its heads, and Yuki, crying hard for his mother, looked terrified. The monster opened its mouth to eat Yuki, making the boy cry harder as the monster dropped him into its mouth. However, someone intervened to save Yuki, and the monster noticed it. The monster turned its gaze to the building where Yuki and his savior had landed. Yuki looked at his savior, who told the monster that it was time to stop eating because lunch was over, calling it a demon. But if the monster was so hungry, why not try eating him instead, because he would crush a few eggs? The one who spoke and Yuki's savior was none other than the protagonist of this manga, the Rooster Fighter. After saying this, he charged at the monster, leaping directly at one of its heads, while shouting cock-a-doodle-doo. This was said to be a story about a rooster who saved humanity. In the next scene, we move to a year earlier. At that time, the night sky was bright, filled with countless stars. From a chicken coop came noises, its door left open. Inside, a rooster was making love with a hen, which was enjoying every second of it. Morning came as the two continued their heated affair. The hen, exhausted from what they did, leaned against the rooster and fell into deep sleep. Meanwhile, the rooster didn't seem pleased to have the hen leaning against him after mating. His eyes looked deep, as if burdened by heavy thoughts. Then he stood up and left without a word, confusing the hen. Tearfully, the hen begged him not to say he was leaving, making the rooster pause for a moment and explain that he was a migratory species, not the type to be bound to one place. Because of this, the hen asked if everything he had said was a lie. The rooster hesitated, then admitted that it was mating season and he was leaving. This made the hen call him a bastard. Then we moved to the city where the rooster was running. During his morning run, he spotted a flying insect. Using his beak, he picked up a small stone and threw it at the insect, hitting it and knocking it down. He immediately picked it up and ate it, crunching its body loudly. The rooster noted that the insect tasted a bit bitter, but it was better than eating as a turtle. After all, in his current situation, it wasn't as if he would starve. As he said this, he excreted the insect he had eaten. He added that insects weren't so bad, and they were the kind of food every bird would ask for. Later, he passed through a playground and spotted children, which alarmed him. He saw them playing with bubbles and glared at them in disgust. He thought to himself that he hated kids because all they could say about him was that he was loud, stupid, insensitive, and selfish. As he said this, 2 little girls noticed him, causing him to panic. Still, he couldn't avoid them when they came closer. One girl in a striped shirt said he was beautiful, while the girl in a hoodie asked if he was lost. Then the girl in the striped shirt asked if he liked some KFC. This infuriated him, and in his mind, he wondered if the girl was effing crazy. Right after that, someone grabbed his neck, startling him. It was a skinny boy who shouted, "I got you," with a chubby boy by his side. The striped shirt girl said the rooster was being hurt, but the skinny boy told her to shut up and called her a bitch, which scared both girls. The 2 boys left, with the skinny one asking the chubby one what they should do with the chicken. The chubby boy suggested eating it, while the 2 girls shouted that what they had was a rooster, not a chicken, calling them idiots. The skinny boy then suggested feeding the rooster to his cat, and the chubby boy said that sounded like a great idea. Hearing this, the rooster thought quickly and decided to escape, surprising the 2 boys. They chased after him, shouting for him to wait, and kept calling him chicken, which irritated him further since he narrowly managed to escape. They continued to chase him while telling him to wait. only irritating him further that they still did not give up. At that moment, he saw an old man watering plants in front of his house. The rooster ran into the man's yard and tried to talk to him. The two boys followed and were spotted by the old man. He asked what they wanted, and the skinny boy said the chicken behind him was his, demanding it back. The old man looked at the rooster, who shook his head no. The old man seemed to understand what the rooster wanted to say, so he told the boys it was strange because the rooster looked exactly like his own rooster. Shocked, the two boys doubted him, but to sell the lie, the old man called the rooster Kokisuke and told him not to leave the yard. The rooster was puzzled by the name the old man had given him, while the old man apologized for the trouble the rooster had caused, assuring them it wouldn't happen again. The two boys were frustrated by this, but they were not able to do anything, so they just left. The old man then smiled at the rooster, who sighed in relief and thought he owed the man a debt. Meanwhile, as the two boys walked, the chubby one asked if the rooster really belonged to the old man. The skinny boy angrily said the old man was lying and called his friend an idiot. Suddenly, they both heard a loud noise coming from the house behind them. When they turned, they saw the wall cracking, and both screamed in shock, because from the house, a giant monster's hand bursted out. Inside the old man's house, he fed the rooster and apologized because it was all the food he had. The rooster saw that the old man had prepared rice and vegetables and felt grateful towards him. He admitted that the food was undeniable and thanked the man sincerely. While he ate, the old man remarked that it seemed delicious, and the rooster appeared to enjoy it. The rooster then noticed the old man's expression, which seemed to hold a deep memory. The old man shared that his wife used to feed animals there too. The rooster listened intently, as the man added that he wished he had told his wife to stop working while she was still healthy. He recalled the past, back when his wife was alive, happily feeding the birds in their backyard. She seemed so happy about doing that, while he watched her silently from not far behind. Returning to the present, he smiled at the rooster and apologized for bothering him, saying that for some reason, he felt he could trust the rooster, who seemed to sympathize with him. While they spoke, an explosion went off not far away, shocking them both. Cars were being thrown into the air, and people fled in panic. It was the work of a monster destroying houses in its path. The old man and the rooster stepped outside and froze in shock upon seeing the monster. The old man was stunned, as the monster was now at a building close to his house. Its body was made of fingers that also served as legs. Its head bore two horns on its forehead, and arms extended out of its ears. It shouted not to forget the paperwork, while the old man screamed in fear. The rooster recognized the creature before them as a monster. At that moment, the two boys who had chased him earlier reappeared, crying and begging for help, as tears streamed down their faces. The rooster remembered them as the same boys who had captured him. While running, the chubby boy tripped and fell, alarming the old man, while the monster noticed the fallen child. We learned that his name was Hiroshi, and the monster declared that it would kill them all. The skinny boy cried out, asking what kind of thing was after them, while the old man ran to the children, shocking the rooster. The monster drew closer and closer to the boys. The old man leaped over Hiroshi to protect him, and just as the monster was about to strike, the rooster intervened, deflecting its finger away. The monster was stunned to see that its attack was blocked by a rooster. Shifting its attention toward him, the monster advanced, while the rooster demanded to know why it had tried to kill the children and the old man, telling it to face him and end it right here and now. The monster was getting closer to the rooster, and we could see the kids and the old man completely shocked at what they were witnessing, especially the old man, who had his mouth open in disbelief and his eyes wide with fear. The rooster called the monster a bastard and asked it what it thought it was going to do to the children and the old man. He declared that he was pissed off now and was rumbling for a cockfight. The ground shook violently with each step of the monster, and it told the rooster that it would kill him. At that moment, the rooster suddenly recalled his past when his little sister was calling out to him. Back then, the house in front of him was burning, and a giant monster was holding his little sister, whose head resembled the head of the monster he was currently fighting. She kept calling out to him repeatedly while the monster was about to devour her, but he could do nothing but watch his sister, named Sarah, get eaten. After recalling that incident, he returned to the present, glaring sharply at the monster, while once again calling it a bastard and saying that he would beat it all the way to hell. Meanwhile, the monster shouted "kill" as it prepared to attack. It launched a 5-finger smash at the rooster, but the rooster leapt away. The monster saw him land on a rooftop, so it smashed the rooftop with its hands where the rooster had been, but the rooster was already running off. After that, the rooster leapt down from the rooftop and counterattacked. He ran at extreme speed, zooming beneath the monster trying to confuse it, visibly making it harder for the monster to track him. The skinny kid and the old man were amazed by what the rooster was doing, and at the same time, the rooster leapt toward the monster. He ran up toward the monster's head, and in retaliation, the monster tried to crush him, but because of the rooster's incredible speed, he dodged, causing the monster to strike itself. The rooster kept running on the monster's head, while the monster continuously attempted to crush him, but always failed. Then, the rooster ran to the monster's eye and pecked it hard right in the middle, making the monster scream so loud in pain. The rooster jumped back down to the ground as the monster kept screaming. He then prepared for the finishing blow, inhaling deeply. He took in so much air that his chest swelled, and he told the monster to eat his attack, calling it fucker. He unleashed the cock-a-doodle-doo attack, the cry of the tailor partridge, falcon, and heron, an immensely powerful scream directed at the monster. The scream was so strong that it sent shockwaves across the entire area, making the children and the old man cover their ears. Beyond that, the windows of the surrounding houses shattered, and we could see that the monster was in unbearable pain. A huge lump formed on its forehead, followed by multiple lumps all over its face. The children and the old man were shocked by this, as was the monster itself. Soon after, the monster's head exploded into pieces. Its body parts scattered across the old man's house, and the three were stunned because the rooster had single-handedly defeated the giant monster. The skinny kid asked what had just happened, while the old man thought for a moment before asking could this possibly be the so-called phenomenon of resonance. The skinny kid asked about resonance, so the old man questioned him back if kids these days didn't watch television or movies. He told them to picture shattering glass with nothing but a voice. Resonance is when the frequency of the voice and the frequency of an object match up. A phenomenon like that should occur under such circumstances, but apparently, there was a force powerful enough to completely blow up the monster, which he referred to as a titanic creature. He looked at the rooster, then wondered to himself just what in the world that rooster was. After that, the rooster jumped onto the monster's body and looked at its neck. Based on his recollection, the monster that ate his sister had a tattoo on its neck, one shaped like the letter E in lowercase. Back in the present, the rooster thought to himself that since there was no marking on the monster he killed, then after all, it wasn't the one that had eaten his sister. The skinny kid said it was plain horrible, since the old man's yard was completely messed up. The rooster heard this, poked the old man's leg, and the old man immediately looked at him. The rooster was holding a broom, so the old man asked if that meant he was offering to help clean up, to which the rooster responded yes in his own language. Gradually, they cleaned up the old man's yard, and the skinny kid asked if there were any more trash bags. The old man said there were, and that's when we learned the skinny kid's name was Sonny. Before long, they had cleaned up all the monster's body parts and dumped the trash bags and the monster's glasses into the trash area. Then Sonny said that the rooster was insanely awesome since he defeated the monster and cleaned up the place. However, when they looked, the rooster was already gone from their side. Sonny asked where he was, but he was far away from them by then. The old man looked in the direction the rooster had gone and bid farewell to his friend, whom he called Klucksuka. Meanwhile, the rooster was already wandering off, saying that he was a migratory bird roaming the wild lands, so he too would say farewell to that town. He remembered the old man, since he had now repaid his debt for the splendid feast he had been served. He defeated the kaiju and also cleaned the old man's entire yard. He said his pride was that of a bird taking flight, never leaving behind a bad impression of himself. After that, he returned to the chicken coop he had left that morning to make amends with the hen he had abandoned. He thought it went against his principle to let a woman cry, since before anything else, he should have been the one to make her cry out. However, he found another rooster making hot love with that hen. His vision darkened at the sight, and every moan of the hen in pleasure with the other rooster pierced him like a dagger, stabbing him over and over again. Because of this, he left, saying that the next city was out there waiting for him. In the next scene, we move to a zoo where there were lions, elephants, gorillas, and a child happily watching the animals. The child pointed at the rooster fighter and mentioned him to her older brother. However, her brother called her stupid and said that what she was referring to was just another southern bird. For some reason, he added that the rooster had an annoying face. He then threw peanuts at the rooster, calling them peanut bombs. Because of that, the rooster caught all the peanuts, which amazed the young boy. However, the boy suddenly cried out in pain when the rooster fired the peanuts back at him like a machine gun, hitting him in the face. The young girl worried about her older brother, while the rooster walked away, thinking that he truly loathed brats. He was irritated with that kind of society that allowed brats like that boy to run free and do whatever they wanted. Then the rooster noticed several birds playing near a pond. He was annoyed by their noise and rowdiness, and he thought he felt disgust toward them even though they were southern birds. Every single one of them and their ridiculous fooling around irritated him. To someone like him, who constantly walked close to death, that terribly careless world made him sick. A shoebill stork then called him migratory mister and invited him to play with them, but he thought they were just more brats and told them to ask someone else. However, the shoebill stork and two other birds kicked him into the pond. They splashed him with water and laughed at him repeatedly. Before long, the birds grew shocked when they noticed that the rooster seemed to be drowning. When the rooster came out of the pond, the shoebill stork and the other birds apologized to him. He told them to remember carefully what he was about to say. That swimming style he used was called cluck stroke. There was a brief silence before the birds asked whether he had not been asking for help earlier. Then a toucan called out to them, startling them, and asked if they were up to no good again. The shoebill stork grew frightened because the toucan who called them was Old Man Xena. Xena told the young birds that instead of causing trouble, they should entertain the customers, calling them naughty little brats. The young birds flew away, telling Xena to shut up and drop dead while laughing and calling him a senile old fart. While Xena was apologizing to the rooster, a zookeeper noticed them and paused in thought. The female zookeeper wondered why there was a rooster there, but she did not dwell on it and simply skipped away, saying not in a million years. Back with Xena and the rooster, Xena said he was glad that the rooster had recovered. The rooster replied that it was all because of Xena's care. It was then revealed that 3 days earlier, the rooster had arrived at that zoo, shocking the other birds. They called Xena because the rooster was extremely weak and soaking wet. They brought him into a cave, and Xena told him that even the zookeepers would not find him there, so he should rest for now. At that moment, the rooster had sensed the presence of a kaiju in the vicinity and had been patrolling when he suddenly weakened. Back in the present, Xena asked the rooster if he had some chronic illness. The rooster did not answer, but in his thoughts, he had no intention of telling Elder Xena that he had eaten a hairy caterpillar for lunch. At that moment, his stomach rumbled loudly, which Xena heard, so Xena brought out insects from his wings since the rooster had not eaten yet for 3 whole days. He offered Brazilian grasshoppers, which were quite a rare feast not often served for meals. The rooster thought for a moment before saying that that was already above and beyond saving his life, and there was no way he could take something that valuable from Xena. He said he would simply accept Xena's feelings. Xena paused after hearing that, and said he understood the rooster while he was about to eat the Brazilian grasshoppers himself, but the rooster stopped him. The rooster stared deeply at him, and Xena asked if he was going to eat the grasshoppers. The rooster replied that since Xena insisted, he would eat them, though he looked disgusted, while in Xena's thoughts, he called the rooster a troublesome fellow. Then the rooster asked if Xena had been born in Brazil, and Xena answered yes. He described how gorgeous the setting sun was as it reflected on the Amazon River, and he loved watching it with his little sisters. The rooster understood that, because he also had a little sister. He then asked Xena when he had come to Japan, and Xena replied that it had been about 20 years ago, when he was around 18 years old. He said the transition had been very difficult at first because he had been placed in a constricting cage and had to appear before many customers every day. However, one day he realized that the customers who looked at him were smiling. He was happy when he realized that, and it was the first time he understood that such happiness existed. The rooster asked if Xena was not bitter toward humans. Xena laughed and said it would be a lie if he claimed he had no bitterness at all. Even so, he had built a family there. All of the birds supported and encouraged one another. They were a close circle that faced joy and sadness together. Nothing could replace that, because they were his precious family. He added that home was where the heart was, and that everything in that place was what he held close to his heart now. The rooster looked carefully at Xena as he gazed over the entire aviary from their high vantage point. Suddenly, they felt a powerful tremor that shook the ground, startling them. The people panicked and ran in fear. A massive hand punched into the monkey enclosure, and another struck the penguin enclosure. It was revealed that a Kiju had appeared, and the female zookeeper stood frozen at its enormous size. The Kiju had 4 legs, 3 stacked torsos, and a head with 2 horns. It said it had no place in its home, so it would kill all the humans in the zoo. Then it spotted Xena and the rooster through the aviary's rooftop windows. In the rooster's thoughts, just as he had expected, a Kiju had appeared, while Xena was trembling in fear. The Kiju prepared to strike with its 3 right arms, and when it smashed through the aviary roof, fear filled old man Xena's face. The birds flew away, and many of them escaped the aviary. Meanwhile, old man Xena flew straight toward the Kiju's face and told it to stop. He readied his enormous beak to stab the monster's face, but it did nothing. As Xena circled to attack again, the shoebill stork tried to speak to him. However, Xena ignored him and told the Kiju to leave the birds alone, then attacked again. He would not allow the Kiju to interfere with his family. As he repeated his attacks, the Kiju's tough skin caused Xena's horn to begin cracking. The Kiju told Xena to shut up and called him a worthless fly before swatting him away. Xena crashed into rocks, his head hitting first. He coughed up blood, and the shoebill stork and the other birds worried for him. Meanwhile, the Kiju said that if that place was important to Xena, it would destroy it even more. As it did so, it laughed and said it suited Xena. Then the rooster stepped into the scene, fully prepared to fight. He told the Kiju to bring it on and called it a shitty bastard. The birds were shocked to see the rooster, and when the Kiju saw him, it was also surprised and said that a small fry like him could not possibly face it, calling him an idiot. After that, the Kiju turned around, only to suddenly try to crush the rooster with a punch. The rooster dodged and leapt onto the Kiju's arm, climbing quickly. When he reached near its face, he jumped high and faced it directly. He told the Kiju that it had trampled on everything Elder Xena had protected throughout his life. He added that he was riled up for a cockfight and told the Kiju to take his attack. As he said that, he inhaled deeply and unleashed a cock-a-doodle-doo scream at the Kiju. The Kiju's face bulged, and not long after, it exploded. The Kiju's body collapsed completely, and the birds were shocked. In the aftermath of the attack, they gathered around Elder Xena. Xena was extremely weak and asked if everyone was safe. The rooster replied that Xena should rest easy because everyone was safe. Xena understood that the rooster had saved them all and asked how he could thank him enough. The shoebill stork then apologized to Xena for the cruel things he had said earlier and begged him not to die on them. Xena was surprised to hear that from the trio of naughty birds and told them they would grow into outstanding adults because he would watch over them from the other side. The birds begged him not to die and to pull through, and they were all saddened for their dying elder, who now had tears in his eyes. At that moment, Xena saw a vision of his little sisters, Elena and Leuna, telling him that they wanted him to see the beautiful lake they had found. He thought that one more time, he wanted to watch the setting sun with his 2 little sisters. Then in the real world, Xena closed his eyes while tears fell, shocking all the birds. They cried out in grief at Elder Xena's death, and they all wept, while the rooster fell into thought. In his mind, Elder Xena had returned to his old home. The rooster picked up one of Xena's feathers and tucked it into his wing. As he prepared to leave, he promised Xena that one day he would pass that keepsake to his sisters and tell them that their big brother had fulfilled a praiseworthy role in Japan and had died happy. The other birds asked if the rooster was leaving. He replied that he had no further business there, so they should stay strong. Suddenly, the rooster felt extreme pain as his stomach rumbled violently. He wondered if it was because of the grasshoppers Elder Xena had fed him. He suddenly collapsed, and the birds worried about him, asking if he was all right. In his thoughts, he said it must be some parting gift from Xena, and he apologized to the other birds, saying he would be staying there for 2 or 3 more days. In the next scene, we move to a seaside shore where everything is quiet, and the only sound is the waves crashing against the beach. There, we see 3 wooden baskets floating, and inside one of them is the rooster fighter. Then, a man surfaced near him and placed something into the basket where he was. The man said it was a big catch, and we see that he had already put a lot into the rooster's basket. Meanwhile, in another part of the sea, a school of fish was swimming peacefully. One fish said it was a good day for a nap, but he suddenly was shocked. All the fish panicked because One-Eyed Silver had arrived, so they fled. One-Eyed Silver was a sea turtle, and he was called One-Eyed Silver because he had a scar on one of them. Silver swam up to the surface, and when he emerged, he saw the silhouettes of the people and the rooster, which surprised him. He saw that the people were feeding the rooster and asked him if he wanted to try eating sea urchin. When the people left, some asked what was up with the rooster since he had shown up there a few days ago. Meanwhile, the rooster was pondering the sea urchin that had been offered to him. He asked himself what that strange creature was and whether it was edible. He decided he would find out and tasted it. After swallowing the sea urchin, he felt a sudden surge through his body because it was so delicious. He said the richness of 100 stink bugs and the umami of 100 worms were combined in a single bite. It was the perfect harmony of flavor. He even teared up from how good the sea urchin was, because he had never tasted something that brought him such joy. Then Silver approached the rooster and asked what he was doing on his turf, which put him on alert. Silver carried a menacing aura as he slowly drew near the rooster. He told him there was nothing he hated more than birds, and if the rooster knew what was good for him, he would leave. Shock was visible on the rooster's face at what he heard from Silver, and an awkward silence fell between them before the rooster said he had no intention of leaving. Because of that, Silver asked if the rooster was saying he was looking for a fight. The rooster thought for a moment, then said that as much as he hated to admit it, he could not swim. Silver was puzzled by that, and the rooster added that since Silver called that place his turf, he probably knew every nook and cranny of it. For instance, where the sea urchins resided. He looked at Silver after saying that, which left Silver utterly shocked at what he was hearing. Silver asked himself if the rooster was telling him to show where the sea urchins were. Had he not heard what he said, or was he just acting tough, so he would now show him who was really tough? He told the rooster to listen to him, calling him Birdie. He should leave, or he would regret it, he warned. The rooster replied that he wanted to fill himself up with sea urchins, so could Silver bring him some. Because of that, Silver was stunned by the rooster's directness. He laughed after that, and said no one had ever disrespected him like that. He had promised the rooster a fight, so that was what he would get now. Silver prepared to attack, telling the rooster to take his strike. Silver charged in with the turtle tank attack, launching himself with tremendous force toward the rooster. The rooster saw it immediately, so he jumped away, causing Silver to skid across the sand. Silver skidded very far because of the rooster's evasion, and at that point Silver realized the rooster was no ordinary bird. The rooster answered that Silver was no ordinary turtle, but if it was a fight he wanted, he would not back down. However, if he won, Silver would bring him sea urchins. Silver could not believe the rooster still wanted that. "Quit playing," Silver shouted, and told the rooster to take his attack as he wound up to smash a large rock. That attack was the turtle smash, where the rock Silver struck shattered into pieces and flew toward the rooster. The rooster leapt away from the area of effect of Silver's attack and bounced off the nearby rock wall, which surprised Silver. After that, the rooster delivered his signature cock-a-doodle-doo attack, which Silver did not expect. When that attack struck the one-eyed sea turtle, he was blasted away and crashed into a rock that exploded into pieces. So shocked by that strike, Silver asked what it was. As the rooster landed, Silver thought their fight was getting interesting. He launched himself again toward the rooster, and as he was about to smash him in the face, he told him to have some fun. The rooster did a front flip to evade Silver's strike and landed on his back to deliver a kick to the back of his head. Silver tried to swat the rooster away, but the rooster just leapt off and easily dodged him. The two clashed head-on, unleashing an array of slaps, swipes, claw digs, and various other attacks between them. Silver was astonished by the rooster's skills, and when they separated, both were panting heavily. Silver was covered in bruises, and he pointed out something about the rooster's leg. We see that it too was covered in bruises, and his right leg was throbbing. That was because a fishing hook was embedded there. Silver thought it over, and said their fight was over. "I see how it is," Silver said, which made the rooster think. Silver approached the rooster and pulled out the hook buried in his right leg. The rooster was surprised and thanked Silver, who called it pathetic. Then Silver asked if during their fight, had the rooster had been holding back. The rooster said that if they had fought in the sea instead of on land, he would surely have lost. Silver did not answer right away, but he accepted the rooster's reply. Then the rooster asked why he disliked birds. Silver thought deeply and recalled the reason why he hated birds. He explained that they sea turtles were born on the beach. The rooster listened seriously, and Silver added that they struggled out of the sand. Then they ran toward the ocean as if it were calling to them. He had the same experience, and all he could think about was the ocean. When he thought he could already see the ocean in front of him, when a flock of seagulls attacked. They arrived and, one by one, took his siblings and ate them. He said it was a hellish sight, and he would never forget his first taste of the world. The rooster listened quietly to Silver's story, and Silver continued that somehow he managed to escape the seagulls' attack, so he vowed to avenge his brothers and sisters. The seagulls had targeted them the moment they spawned, so he trained day and night for the next 3 years. Then, when the seagulls returned, he struck back and avenged his fallen brethren. Because of that, the seagulls no longer tried to come to that beach. After Silver's story, we see from the rooster's reaction that he truly related to it, because he too had a sibling he wanted to avenge, so he told Silver that he had seen hell as well. He told Silver that his sister had been killed by something called a demon. Silver said he had heard about demons, while the rooster reminisced about the demon that had eaten his sister. Then he told Silver there was one demon he would never forget, and that one of these days he would bring it down. Silver looked at the rooster because of that. But the moment was broken when both of them noticed something that shocked them. From a distance, they saw the large silhouette of what seemed to be a demon. Silver asked what it was, and we see that it was a demon attacking a ship. She was crying and complaining about why her lover refused to leave his wife when she had been with him for 10 years. "Speak of the devil," said the rooster as he rushed toward the demon, but Silver told him to wait. The rooster stopped running because of that, and Silver asked if he had not said that he could not swim. Meanwhile, the demon began to destroy the ship. She bit into different parts of it, while the people inside were terrified. She spotted a family, mockingly called them a happy family, and said she would kill them all. At the same time, the rooster and Silver headed toward the monster, with Silver swimming rapidly along the surface while the rooster rode on his back. The rooster told Silver he appreciated it, so Silver said the rooster now owed him. The demon kept attacking the ship, which made the people inside even more scared. Silver and the rooster were on their way, but the rooster said they would not make it in time. Silver told the rooster to climb onto one of his flippers, so the rooster did. Silver leapt out of the water and hurled the rooster with tremendous force. Meanwhile, the demon laughed because she had managed to break open the ship, while the people were on the verge of tears and fear. The demon was about to bite the people, but the rooster told her to stop, which made her pause and look up in confusion. She then saw the rooster flying toward her, and he told her to take his attack. The rooster unleashed the cock-a-doodle-doo attack and spun at extreme speed to strike the demon's swelling body part, while she wondered what was happening. The rooster used his spinning doodle-doo attack and bored a large hole through the demon's neck. As a result of that attack, the monster fell into the sea, while the rooster landed on the ship. He watched as the demon slowly sank into the water, and realized she was not the demon that had eaten his sister either. Silence returned to that beach thanks to the rooster's heroics, and he went back to shore. Silver said he had not asked the rooster's name yet, so the rooster introduced himself as Keiji, which he said meant the rooster's will in Japanese. Silver said that even if Keiji was a bird, he liked him. He added that once Keiji had avenged his sister, he should come back there, and he would gladly be his sparring partner. "You're on," Keiji said, and the two of them watched the sunset. Then Keiji asked if he could request one last favor. He was about to ask Silver for sea urchins, but Silver answered with a big no. Keiji was stunned by that, and was speechless for a while in shock. After a moment, he tried to say he would be forever indebted to Silver, but Silver still said no. In the next scene, we see a man holding a chick in his hand. He has many chicks and was selling them to people. He told passers-by that they were cute and that the price was 300 yen each, but no one was buying from him. One of the chicks cheered him on and called him Pops, but one of the older chicks kicked her. The others told her to be quiet, asking what she meant by saying "you got this." The youngest chick insisted that their Pops worked hard every day, so they should support him. Because of that, her companions ganged up on her and told her not to help Pops, since he was selling their friends. Meanwhile, the man tried selling the chicks to some female students, but they were scared and ran off in disgust. Then, someone approached and called out to the man. It was 2 police officers who recognized him. They took the man to the police station and told him that this was his last warning. The man answered, "Yes, officer." Then we moved to his home, where he fed the chicks. The chicks were delighted that it was time to eat, and so was the youngest, who even jumped around. She tried to squeeze in among the bigger chicks, but she just got kicked out of the food circle. She tried circling around to another part of the circle, but the result was the same. She grew sad because of it, and because she was starving. The man picked her up and saw that she was hungry, so he gave her a small individual pile of food outside the crate where the other chicks were. He told the chick to eat and gave her a friendly smile. The chick was happy about what her Pops did for her, telling her to eat and get stronger while he gently poked her as she ate. Not long after, night came, and the man was watching a movie on his TV. The chick watched with him, sitting on his lap while he drank alcohol. The chick did not understand what was happening, and we learned that the movie the man was watching was Shawa Zankuden, starring Ken Takakura. The man said Ken was truly the best, a real man's man. The chick looked at the man after he said that. While in the movie, Ken asked someone if they called themselves human. The chick saw that and said Ken was cool like her Pops. Then she saw that Ken had a big tattoo on his back, which surprised her. She immediately ran behind her Pops and looked at the huge tattoo on his back. The chick said it was the same as Ken's tattoo while happily hopping around. The man was surprised that she could tell, and he confirmed that his tattoo was the same as Ken Takakura's. It was called Salmon's Run, and it signified the will of a great man. The chick said she wanted a tattoo on her back too, pointing to her back, but all the man heard were chirps. He asked the chick if she also wanted a tattoo, and she happily answered yes while jumping around. Again, all the man heard were chirps and tweets, but he understood the chick. So he took a marker and drew on the chick's back, telling her he had the perfect one for her. He wrote the word duty on the chick's back and told her to remain true to her honor and morals because the duty of a man was to stand up for the weak. The chick thought duty was a beautiful word. At the same time, the man felt a strong throb at the nape of his neck, so he rubbed it. He was puzzled because he felt a lump on his nape, and he was annoyed that it was a zit. The chick saw it and looked worried for her Pops. In the next scene, it was the following day, and the smallest chick was being bullied by her companions, who asked what was on her back and called her a weirdo and lame. The smallest chick said it was not lame because their Pops had written it for her. As soon as she said that, their Pops came home, with his face beaten up, being helped by a man in a suit. The smallest chick was shocked by her Pop's condition. Their Pops sat down and apologized to the man with him, whose name was Tajima. Tajima said the boss just did not know when to stop. While they talked, the smallest chick worried about her Pops. Her Pops said the boss's actions were understandable because he was behind on his dues to the family, and he was just happy he was not being told to sell his kidneys. He added that he needed to find a better hustle because selling chicks did not seem right at the moment. Tajima lit a cigarette, and we learned that the chick's Pop's name was Yasuo. Tajima told Yasuo he was thinking of starting a business. Yasuo asked what kind of business, and according to Tajima, it was a cleaning company. It was a new era, so even Yakuza needed proper jobs. Naturally, he would bring Yasuo in as a partner, and that way he could pay off his debts. Yasuo did not answer right away, and simply bowed to Tajima. He began to tear up while thanking him for always being kind to a good-for-nothing like him. Tajima replied that Yasuo should not mention it, since they were like brothers after all. Yasuo said he would give everything, so Tajima said he would count on him. The smallest chick listened to their conversation, and to her, she did not know what they were talking about, but she was happy for her Pops. Then Tajima asked Yasuo for a favor. We did not hear what that favor was because the scene zoomed out into the darkness of night. After a few days, Yasuo was watching another Ken Takakura movie when someone rang his doorbell. When Yasuo opened the door, he saw a man in a suit, and he had someone with him. Yasuo asked who the man was, but he did not introduce himself and went straight to the point. He said Tajima had left town, so Yasuo was now responsible for the 10 million debt Tajima had taken out. The man showed Tajima's loan application for 10 million yen, or $90,000. On that paper, it showed that the co-signee was Yasuo Oda, who looked utterly shocked to see it. Then we flashed back to the favor Tajima had asked of Yasuo, where Tajima said he was having trouble finding supporters, so as a formality, could Yasuo be his co-signee? Back in the present, Yasuo tried to bring up the company Tajima had promised him, but the man said Yasuo should not trust the Yakuza, and should he not already know that? Yasuo had no answer to that, and instead flashed back to a time when someone was calling his name. It was his mother, who said she would be home late that night. Yasuo said all right, and told his mother see you later. That was the last time he saw his mother, so when he went to school, his mother's departure became the talk of the town, with people saying she ran off with a man. His classmates called him trash because he had been abandoned, and the words "you're trash" stuck with him. We returned to the present, where Yasuo was seething and on the verge of tears as he said he was not trash. At the same time, the zit at his nape throbbed intensely. He was struggling badly because of it, so the man asked him what was wrong, while the smallest chick grew worried for him. Yasuo's body began to transform, while the throbbing of his zit grew stronger and stronger. It reached the point where it burst, so the two debt collectors left, while the smallest chick became frightened. The zit took control of Yasuo's body and knocked over the crate of chicks. The smallest chick jumped out of the crate and ended up riding on Yasuo's zit. She tried to stop Yasuo's transformation, but she could do nothing as he turned into a demon. In the next scene, we moved to a conveyor belt sushi restaurant, where a mother was eating with two children. The mother gave her son his favorite sea urchin, which delighted him. The boy ate the sea urchin, and while chewing, he saw the silhouette of a rooster outside the window. It turned out to be Keiji, drooling at the sight of a sea urchin. The boy cried in fear, so the mother complained to a staff member about the rooster outside. At that moment, there was an explosion in the distance, which alerted Keiji. There was rumbling from the source of the blast, and Keiji immediately knew it was a demon. He was a bit annoyed because he would have to wait for sea urchins. The demon Keiji would fight had the body of a fish with a human body at the head like a centaur. We learned that it was Yasuo because that demon said he was not trash. His smallest chick was still trying to stop him, pleading with him not to lash out. However, Yasuo's fish body bit into a bus, which made the smallest chick worried. The people inside were terrified, so thankfully Keiji arrived and struck the demon's fish head with a cock-a-doodle-doo attack. The demon's fish head sprouted lumps that then burst, so he dropped the bus and Yasuo was hurt. The smallest chick worried for her pops, while the bus crashed and people inside were injured. Keiji then called out to Yasuo and addressed him as a fish monster. When Yasuo looked at Keiji, Keiji carried an aura that could not be matched. He asked Keiji if he was calling him trash too, and said that was unforgivable. Keiji took a deep breath, but he stopped when he heard someone shout "Stop it." It was the smallest chick pleading for Keiji to stop. She begged him not to fight Yasuo, so Keiji wondered why a chick was trying to stop him. At the same time, Yasuo was about to crush Keiji, but because the rooster was alert, so he jumped away from Yasuo's attack. He landed on the fish body and told Yasuo to take his attack. Yasuo could do nothing, and the chick cried. A massive cock-a-doodle-doo attack struck Yasuo's head, and the chick was caught in it. However, Keiji saved the chick and leapt away from Yasuo's body. When he landed, he set the chick down, and she immediately looked at Yasuo. She saw that her pop's face was covered in lumps, and it looked like Yasuo knew what was going to happen. The chick could do nothing, as her pop's had exploded, and his body collapsed to the ground. The chick ran to Yasuo's body and kept calling out to him, seeking a response. She also tried poking Yasuo, but Keiji told her he would not move anymore. The chick looked up at Keiji, and Keiji added that Yasuo would not stand up again. The chick cried even harder because of that, with tears flowing non-stop. She ran toward Keiji and called him a bad man. She told him to look at what he had done to her pops and said it was terrible. Then both of them heard chirps and saw that they were coming from Yasuo's body. He had returned to his human form, looking drained out, but he was still breathing. The chick was shocked by what she saw and could not believe Yasuo was still alive. Both of them approached him, and Keiji thought it over before saying that most people who spawned demons were lost in the process. It would seem that Yasuo's heart was not fully infected, and perhaps that was because of his chicks. The chick looked at her pops and then at Keiji. Deep inside, she realized Keiji was not trying to kill her pops, but to save him. The chick then remembered that her pops had told her that the duty of a man was to stand up for the weak. She realized that was what Keiji was doing, and that he was simply fulfilling his duty. The chick felt a strange feeling inside, and was surprised when she saw Keiji already leaving. She asked if he was going to go, and Keiji said he had no more business there. As he walked away, the chick tried to reason with herself, conflicted about whether to stay with her pops or go with Keiji. She asked herself what she was thinking, since she had her pops and could live there peacefully. However, she suddenly stopped and wondered if it would be alright to go with Keiji. She looked back at her pops, who had given her his blessing to go with Keiji. At that moment, the chick reminisced about all her moments with Yasuo, and cried again as her pops told her that a man must swim upstream. The chick apologized to her pops and then followed Keiji. The chick said her time with Yasuo was truly precious, so she thanked him and said she would make her own path. Then the chick bumped into Keiji's leg and was surprised that the rooster had stopped. Keiji told the chick not to follow him, because children made his crown curl. The chick was stunned by that, and as Keiji walked away, she tried to talk to him and pleaded to be taken along. In the next scene, several days had passed, with Yasuo resting in the hospital, and Tajima had been caught. He apologized to the friend he had abandoned. Later that day, another demon surfaced, with a body that had large melons and a mouth on its belly. At that moment, someone arrived using a grappling hook that latched onto electrical lines. The hero swung like Spider-Man and told the demon that no one wanted to see its filthy body, while readying an electric rod to stab into its head. The hero used a Thunderbird attack on the demon's head, electrocuting its entire body. The demon's body fell and was charred to a crisp. The one who had slain that demon came down to the ground, and it was a chicken, but it was not Keiji because it was a hen, and she called the demon disgusting. Then we move to another town, where the little chick is running through the streets. She keeps running and running even though she is exhausted. Unluckily, she trips on a small stone and falls, crying out in pain because she hit her forehead, and she asks what is up with Keiji. She cannot understand why he does not want her to follow him, and why he did not even listen to her plea. She wonders how Keiji could leave a cute kid like her behind, so she decides she will find Keiji and teach him a lesson. After saying that, her stomach rumbles, so she looks for something to eat, saying that all the running made her hungry and she needs food. She spots something that catches her interest, a worm that is minding its own business. She gets scared when she sees it, and the worm wonders why she is screaming. The chick knows it is a worm and asks herself how adults can eat something so gross, calling it unbelievable. She adds that she is fine eating grass and that she already enjoyed it. After eating, she hears people screaming, and when she looks for the source, she sees people running away from something, terrified. She hears someone shout that there is a demon, so she immediately becomes afraid. She sweats profusely and thinks Keiji will come to save the day. If she goes to the demon, she will surely find Keiji. She runs toward the demon, saying she needs to hurry. We see that this demon is unusual because he has no human body. His body is that of a slug, with 4 eyes and 8 egg-like lumps on his back. One of the people being chased by the demon trips, and it is a woman. She looks back to see the demon, and sees the demon's eyes pop out. The demon's 4 eyes move toward the woman and grow mouths with very sharp teeth. The demon sniffs the woman, then says the word sluglug and calls the woman a tasty treat. The woman pleads with him not to eat her, so the demon says he will give her a chance. If she answers his riddle, he will let her live. The woman is confused that the demon is making her answer a riddle. According to him, the riddle is that the woman is part of a 13-car race. If she passes last place, what place is she in? The woman thinks for a moment, then uncertainly asks if she is in 12th place. The demon says that is wrong because it is impossible to pass last place. The woman is crying as she continues to beg not to be eaten, while the demon calls her a fitting face. He adds that humans have no right to live, and now, as promised, he will eat the woman, slowly bringing her toward his mouth with his tongue. He says bon appetit before he can eat her, and at that moment Keiji arrives and kicks the demon's tongue, making him drop the woman. The woman falls to the ground, while the demon looks back toward where Keiji is, landing on a lamp post not far away. Keiji is locked in and ready to fight another demon, and he asks the slug-like demon if he has no shame tormenting a woman. Keiji says his comb burns with rage over what the demon did. The demon is surprised that a rooster attacked him and says it is amusing. He adds that someone should teach Keiji a lesson, and as he says this, one of the egg-looking things on his back pops out. It grows a face and a mouth that is terrifying. 7 more egg-looking things follow. The demon asks if Keiji is still playing brave, and Keiji answers bring it on, calling the demon a slug freak. The demon says he will show Keiji what he can do and attacks him using one of the egg-looking things. Of course, Keiji jumps to evade, but the demon does not let up and sends more egg things to attack. Keiji keeps dodging them, and at 1.5 attack him at once. He kicks one hard in the face and bounces off the others like a ping-pong ball. When he lands, the demon becomes even more furious and calls him a pesky fly. In response, Keiji inhales and tells the demon to take his attack. He unleashes a cock-a-doodle-doo attack on the demon, and the demon cannot do anything about it. Just like the others Keiji has hit with that, the demon grows lumps and explodes into pieces. Pieces of the demon's body fall near Keiji, while the woman is in shock. Keiji is surprised too, because unlike the demons he has fought before, this one regenerates its body. While the demon regenerates, Keiji watches quietly because it is the first time he has seen that. Soon, the demon is fully regenerated, and he mockingly asks Keiji if he thought he had killed him. He taunts him that it is such a shame. He adds that the attack is interesting, but it will not work on him, calling Keiji a pitiful rooster. Keiji can tell that the demon is obviously different from the ones he has fought, so he asks himself if this is a variant. A moment later, the chick arrives and is shocked by what she sees. It is Keiji attacking the demon by striking the various egg things. The chick is delighted because she was right that Keiji was there, so she cheers him on. Then Keiji unleashes another cock-a-doodle-doo attack at the demon, and again the demon grows lumps and explodes. Not satisfied with just one, Keiji immediately follows with another. When he lands, the demon has almost regenerated. The demon mocks him that his attack is useless because he is immortal. Keiji thinks that cannot be true, because all the other demons are vulnerable around their brains and hearts. Therefore, this slug-like demon must also have a weakness. The demon thinks it is useless to target his body, because his heart and brain are in his tail. No one would think to target the tail, so the fight is over before it even begins. Keiji considers what to do, while the demon asks if he will give up, as he should. He says he will make delicious yakitori out of Keiji, and Keiji says he is fed up with the demon. He inhales deeply again, and the demon calls him an idiot for not giving up. Keiji inhales so deeply that his chest swells enormously. The demon is startled, and as he moves to attack, Keiji tells the demon to take this. Keiji releases a super cock-a-doodle-doo attack, and once more the demon's body grows lumps. Then Keiji repositions his aim and blasts away at the middle of the demon's body. He continues firing cock-a-doodle-doo attacks, gradually making his way toward the demon's tail. Because of that, the demon is shocked and asks what Keiji is doing, and by the time he realizes Keiji is attacking his tail, it is too late. With Keiji's final strike, he hits the demon's heart and brain, and because of that, the demon's entire body swells with lumps. The demon says it is not fair, and before long his whole body explodes. Parts of the demon's body rain down near Keiji, while the chick is overjoyed that Keiji has defeated the demon, and she immediately runs toward him. Due to the fatigue from the fight, Keiji collapses to the floor, panting heavily. He says the demon forced him to go all out. Then he notices that the remaining living part of the demon is trying to eat the woman. The woman is terrified, and Keiji realizes she is the woman from earlier. The demon says he will drag the woman down with him, and Keiji rushes over, calling the woman a fool in his mind for not running away. As the demon is about to bite the woman, Keiji shoves her aside, and as a result he is the one bitten by the demon. The woman crashes some distance away, while the demon says take that to Keiji and slowly deflates. Meanwhile, the chick approaches the scene, and she is shocked when she sees Keiji, because he is bleeding, so she tells him to hang on. Then she hears people asking if a rooster defeated the demon. She thinks the people cannot be allowed to find them, so she needs to hide Keiji. She pulls him by the leg, but he is very heavy. Even so, she perseveres, even though it is extremely hard for her to drag Keiji. Little by little, she manages to haul him and brings him into an alleyway. There, she hides Keiji under an air conditioner's condenser unit. The chick also rests because she is exhausted, but she suddenly remembers Keiji and checks on him. In a weak voice, Keiji says he wants water, so the chick immediately leaves, saying she will get some. For the chick, she needs to help Keiji because that is her duty. While searching, she finds plastic bottles by a trash bin, so she takes a bottle cap and gets water from a nearby puddle. She runs it back to Keiji and helps him drink by lifting his head. After that, Keiji rests, but the chick notices he is not healing. Because of that, she leaves and searches in a grassy area. She is startled by what she finds, a worm. She cries because she cannot bring herself to take it and can barely move from disgust. Even so, she composes herself and picks up the worm to bring it to Keiji because that is her duty. Not long after, the chick returns to the alleyway and feeds the worm to Keiji. In her heart, she tells him to get better soon, and we learn that the chick continues caring for Keiji. Whether it is a hot day, being chased by birds, raining, windy, nearly hit by a car, almost drowning, or even being chased by insects, she fetches food and water for Keiji. Before long, Keiji recovers a bit, and the chick's body is covered in bruises from everything she has been doing. Keiji wakes up and is surprised he is alive. At that moment, he sees the chick, who is talking in her sleep about her duty. Keiji is startled to see the chick and wonders if she saved him. He is a little annoyed that he owes a brat like the chick. A moment later, the chick wakes up and is shocked that Keiji is no longer by her side. She immediately runs out from under the condenser unit, still unable to believe Keiji is gone. She cries, asking how Keiji could leave her behind. Then someone asks her if she has somewhere to go, and it is Keiji, who is just above the condenser unit. He comes down from there, and the chick stops crying. Keiji says he will leave the chick behind if she cannot keep up, so if she wants to come along, that is the deal. He starts to leave, but the chick suddenly kicks him. She says she risked her life and asks if Keiji will not even say thank you, telling him he has no sense of duty. At the same time, Keiji feels a sensation on his back because a chicken is attacking him from behind. It is the hen using an electric rod, but Keiji evades. When he lands, he wonders who just attacked him. Electricity continues crackling along the hen's rod, and the chick looks absolutely stunned to see her. The hen says that at last she has found Keiji, who fails to recognize her. Keiji asks who she is, so the hen is a little annoyed and says Keiji has not changed, but she should thank him. Now, she says, she can kill Keiji with no reservations. In the heated face-off between the two, the hen told Keiji to get ready. People passing by could see them and wondered why there were chickens on the sidewalk. Keiji said he did not remember doing anything to the hen that would merit his execution, but the hen replied that even if Keiji did not remember, she did, and she would never forget it. She recounted that as a hatchling, she was adopted by a wealthy family. They even dressed her up, and her mother and father were very kind to her. They poured their love on her by feeding her, taking her swimming, and reading her stories before bed. She wanted to see them smile, so she learned various tricks, such as writing thank you on paper, playing the piano, and playing video games. She lived carefree, but somewhere in her heart, she knew something was missing. Then one day, danger came into her life when a demon who wanted to dance came to her town. That demon was about to crush her family, but someone attacked it straight to the head. That was Keiji, and in the blink of an eye, he defeated the demon. After that, Keiji appeared before her and asked if she was hurt. For the hen, it was love at first sight. The two of them talked along the beach where Keiji told stories about his travels, and that was also when the hen introduced herself as Elizabeth. She said Keiji's stories were inspiring and opened her eyes to the world. That night, as the waves crashed, Keiji was also pounding her from behind. She enjoyed it immensely and realized that what had been missing in her life was the chance to love. After making love, Elizabeth leaned on Keiji to rest, but in classic Keiji fashion, he left without a word, which startled Elizabeth and made her ask where he was going. Keiji answered that the next town was waiting for him, while Elizabeth tried to argue that they loved each other. KG said that was not love, because he had merely given in to his animal instincts. And as he walked away, he told Elizabeth to take care. Because of that, Elizabeth's tears flowed, and she could do nothing but let out all her tears there alone. Back in the present, Elizabeth said that was 6 months ago, when KG crushed her heart and left, so she would never forgive him. The chick was shocked by Elizabeth's story, and that was when she realized this was KG's ex. She flared with anger because of that, while KG was puzzled and asked Elizabeth if she was angry over a one-night stand. Elizabeth laughed at that, then rushed at KG while saying she would kill him. She added that breaking the heart of a young girl was a crime punishable by death. As she said that, she tried to strike KG, but he leapt away. He landed in front of a vending machine, but he had no time to recover because, in an instant, Elizabeth's electric rod was right in front of his face. Of course, he dodged it thanks to his lightning-fast reflexes, so the one Elizabeth hit was the vending machine. Because of that, the vending machine burned due to the amount of volts carried by Elizabeth's electric rod. People were shocked by what happened and asked what that was, and whether it had been fireworks. KG said Elizabeth's weapon was an interesting toy, and she said her thunder baton was charged with 10 million volts and filled with her desire to turn KG into roast chicken. KG replied that it was an impressive weapon, but she should stop unless she wanted to get hurt. Elizabeth did not listen and charged forward again, telling KG to shut up. She poured out many swipes with her thunder baton, but KG kept evading. Elizabeth even tried a front flip to stab at KG, but he simply slid quickly beneath her. KG then ran and praised Elizabeth for her impressive skills. Elizabeth told KG to stop running and called him scum. Elizabeth stuck close on KG's tail no matter where he bounded. Meanwhile, the chick shouted for KG not to run and to show Elizabeth who was boss. As the two chased each other, they were getting in the way of the pedestrians on the sidewalk. KG tried to bounce off a light pole, which surprised Elizabeth. KG then attacked, attempting to kick Elizabeth, who said she would not allow it. She unleashed a thunder machine gun at KG, stabbing her thunder baton many times in KG's direction. However, it did nothing because KG dodged them all, and he grabbed Elizabeth's leg, the one holding the thunder baton. Elizabeth was utterly shocked and froze up, unable to do anything. She grew even angrier at KG, but to her surprise, he pulled her close and suddenly kissed her. She did not resist what KG did, and the chick was equally stunned. The two kissed in the middle of the sidewalk, and Elizabeth simply savored it, closing her eyes. Her memories of her first lovemaking with KG returned, and all the feelings she had back then came flooding back. Slowly, KG positioned himself behind Elizabeth and started making love with her from behind. However, it did not take long for Elizabeth to realize what was happening, so she jumped away. She asked KG what he was doing and called him a monster. KG answered that Elizabeth did not really want to kill him, which left Elizabeth completely shocked. She grew even angrier, but the moment was broken when someone reported them to the police for what they were doing. KG noticed it, so he started to run, telling Elizabeth they should get out of there. He then scooped up the chick, while the people shouted that the chickens were escaping. As they ran, Elizabeth thought about how she had sworn to kill KG, but she allowed what KG did to happen. So she called herself a fool and asked how she could still be so naive. Before long, they reached a forest, where the chick confronted Elizabeth. Did she not just kiss her man, KG? The chick said, calling Elizabeth a man thief. Elizabeth was startled by the chick's wording, so she asked KG if he had laid his hand on the chick. KG replied that he had no taste for that sort of thing, but Elizabeth called him a liar because he had told her he had no self-control with women. Elizabeth suddenly grew surprised, realizing she was acting as if she still had feelings for KG when she had not forgiven him yet. She then said KG should not flatter himself because she did not start her journey to chase after him. She had her own goal. KG asked what that was, so Elizabeth said she would exterminate demons. KG listened silently, and Elizabeth added that after he left, she saw what the demons did to her town. It was truly horrible, and her friends Yuki the dog and Lola the cat passed away along with many others. Even if KG saved her, demons were still appearing all over the world, and people were losing family and friends like she had. As she remembered, her anger at the demons returned, and her claws dug into the ground. She said all people in the world should not have to suffer. KG seemed to relate to that, and Elizabeth said she had decided to defeat the demons together with Keiji. Keiji answered that he only wanted to avenge his sister, and his goal was not to exterminate demons. According to Elizabeth, she remembered the story of Keiji's sister and asked if it was true he was searching for a demon with a mark on its neck. As she pulled something from her bag, she said she had been researching demons. She took out a phone and set it on a tree stump. Keiji asked what that was, so Elizabeth said it was a useful tool humans used. She explained that since the first demon sighting 3 years ago, over 500 demons had been discovered. They were characterized by their tendency to destroy cities and indiscriminately attack humans. Based on their actions, they seemed to have low intelligence, and their bodies were usually red or blue. However, recently, demons had begun to change, and as she said that, the chick stared at her intently. Elizabeth said variants had begun to appear, which made Keiji wonder. Elizabeth explained that variants displayed human-like emotions and intellect. Their personalities and biology were all over the place. Some attacked humans, and others were peaceful. Some even helped people, and the bodies of variants seemed to come in all colors, such as yellow, green, brown, and purple. At that point, Keiji realized the slug demon was a variant after all. Elizabeth then showed Keiji footage that was circulating online. It was a massive demon with muscles, for horns, and half of its body deformed. When Keiji saw it more closely, he said he had never seen a demon with 4 horns and a white body. Elizabeth said that was the first demon with 4 horns and a white body, and people on the internet called it the White Demon. In the video Elizabeth showed, the White Demon released flames from his right hand, telling people they would face the strength of his right arm. From that fire, he released a fiery bird like a phoenix, which shocked Keiji to see. The White Demon hurled that fiery bird toward the people, and it swallowed up the military's tanks, causing them to explode. When Keiji saw the fiery bird's face, something suddenly came to mind. It was the face of his sister, Sarah. Elizabeth said there was no doubt that was the demon who ate Keiji's sister, because he should look at the White Demon's neck. There was a mark there, and Keiji recognized it immediately. He was absolutely certain that was the demon who ate his sister. He grew furious at the smirk of that demon he saw in the video and let out a mighty shout. Elizabeth and the chick were startled, so the chick told him to calm down. Keiji did calm down, doing so by inhaling and exhaling. After that, he left, so Elizabeth asked him where he was going. Keiji said he needed some time alone. In the depth of that night with a full moon, Elizabeth and the chick went to sleep, while Keiji climbed a leafless tree. He thought of the White Demon's face, and said he would end it no matter what happened. On their journey, the 3 of them passed through a place with hills, where a river flowed through the middle. There was also a hot spring there, so the 3 of them relaxed there. Keiji enjoyed it so much that he called the place paradise. We learned that an hour earlier, Keiji had been asking Elizabeth if the hot spring was really there, while the chick said she was already pooped. Elizabeth said it was strange because according to the map on her phone, the hot spring was there. Right after she said that, she noticed the hot spring with many pools of water. The chick happily ran toward it, while Elizabeth mentioned they were lucky there are no humans around. The chick was amazed that that was what a hot spring looked like. According to Elizabeth, the water there was supposedly good for injuries, and the sooner Keiji healed, the sooner he would be ready to fight the next demon. While she was taking off her bag, Elizabeth thought that that's what she would say, but the truth was she just really wanted a dip in the hot spring. Keiji did not enter the hot spring right away and seemed to have something on his mind. Elizabeth asked him if something was wrong, so he asked how deep it was. Elizabeth was surprised and asked if Keiji was afraid of water and if he did not know how to swim, then said that was unexpectedly lame. Keiji told Elizabeth to keep her voice down, while the chick, happily swimming around, asked if they had said something. Keiji tried to change the topic by asking about wild strawberries, but Elizabeth told him not to do that. Then Keiji asked why land animals even needed to learn how to swim, which annoyed Elizabeth. Because of that, while Keiji was still talking, she kicked him and claimed her leg had slipped. Keiji splashed into the water, but to his surprise he did not drown. He even said the water felt nice, so Elizabeth told him to submerge his whole body. After that, Elizabeth dipped a towel into the river and placed it on Keiji's head. Keiji asked what the cold towel was for. Elizabeth explained that chickens use their crowns to regulate heat, so if they cooled their crowns, they would not overheat as quickly, and it seemed humans did something similar too. Back in the present, the two of them were enjoying relaxing in the hot spring, and Elizabeth wondered to herself how long it had been since she last had a proper bath. Before her travels, she regularly drank Onii-Chan while chilling in a bathtub with an ocean view. Once the demons were defeated, she might celebrate with a Onii-Chan bath. Meanwhile, when the chick looked at KG and Elizabeth, she saw them chilling side by side. So she dragged Elizabeth away and told her she was way too close to KG. Elizabeth was startled, while the chick hugged KG, asking him if she was right. Elizabeth wondered what was with this chick she called a brat. Then the chick called to KG and told him she did not yet have a proper name, so she wanted him to give her one. What KG came up with was Chicken Little, which Elizabeth called thoughtless. Even so, the chick liked it, which surprised Elizabeth, because that name would follow the chick into adulthood. Chicken Little replied that that was the name KG had given her, so she would cherish it. Then Elizabeth noticed the writing on Chicken Little's back and asked why she had the word duty written there. Chicken Little glared hotly at Elizabeth and told her to fetch a towel so she could explain why. She said her pops had written it there because he wanted her to help those in need. He was the kindest dad, and after saying that, she reminisced. She remembered her pops telling her to eat and grow strong, and she started to tear up a little. Suddenly, she left the hot spring, shouting for her pops. She ran away, but quickly came back and said she had decided that she wanted to follow KG after all. Because of that, Elizabeth thought Chicken Little seemed conflicted. Elizabeth wondered about her desire to follow KG, but KG looked at her and, with just his gaze, told her that was not what he was doing, yet she answered that she still would not forgive him. A little later, KG came out of the hot spring so overheated that steam was coming off his body. Chicken Little told him that he had been way too stubborn and had stayed in the hot spring far too long. Then someone appeared, a figure that looked like it was melting, which startled the two of them. It looked like a monster, so Chicken Little was terrified and ran, while KG jumped backward. He said the figure he was thinking of as a demon had finally shown up. The figure rubbed off the mud and turned out to be Elizabeth. Chicken Little was shocked, while KG asked what had happened and if she had fallen into a pond. Elizabeth answered that it was a mud bath. According to online reviews, the mud there was good for the skin, and even hens wanted to beautify themselves. She added that KG really did not understand women. Soon, the sun began to set, and at a resting spot Chicken Little was fast asleep. Not far away, KG was deep in thought by the river. He looked at his own reflection when Elizabeth called to him. She asked what he was thinking about, and he said it was the white demon from yesterday's footage. He said he was trying to think about it calmly, and that he had a feeling the white demon was somehow different from his memory. Even the phoenix he saw, he had thought it was Sarah, but there was probably no connection. Because of that, he wondered if that was really the demon he was searching for. Elizabeth thought it over, then said that the fact variants had begun to appear most likely meant the demons were evolving. If the white demon was some evolved form, it would make sense for his appearance to be different. She added that the mark was undeniable proof, was it not? They should track down the white demon, since searching for him would provide answers. That, she said, was the plan, as she took something out of her bag. It was her phone, and she said the white demon had appeared 300 kilometers northeast of their current location, and it would take them some time to get there. Even so, KG was not listening, because he noticed Chicken Little was gone and asked Elizabeth where she was. They went to where they had last seen her, and Elizabeth said it was odd because Chicken Little had been sleeping there. So where could she have gone? KG wondered. Elsewhere, an animal was running quickly through the forest. It was a cat carrying Chicken Little, who was crying out for KG's help. KG and Elizabeth had started searching for Chicken Little, and while they were doing that, Elizabeth asked if KG was sure they were heading to the right place, so KG told her not to underestimate his nose. The only problem, he said, was that he could smell another animal, and if they did not hurry, Chicken Little might get eaten. Meanwhile, Chicken Little kept calling for help, and repeatedly called KG's name. The cat went onto a road, and Chicken Little told it to let her go. Chicken Little even kicked the cat on the cheek where the whiskers were, so the cat released her. She immediately ran away and hid inside a pipe. The cat tried to reach for her, so she was terrified because it was about to grab her. At that moment, KG arrived and told the cat to stop, calling it a cat burglar. The cat looked back at KG and Elizabeth, and KG added that the cat should return Chicken Little to them. Chicken Little was surprised KG was there, while the cat told them not to take its prey. KG answered that they would fight for Chicken Little, and the two faced off. The cat tried to hiss to intimidate KG, but it had no effect. Then KG heard someone calling the cat Mama, and it was 5 kittens. The cat went to her children and told them they should not leave the house, while KG and Elizabeth watched quietly. The kittens said they were hungry, and one of them even had a rumbling stomach. The chickens were shocked to see that, and Elizabeth asked if the cat had kidnapped Chicken Little for her children. The cat thought for a moment, before answering that her children had not eaten properly for 10 days. Because of that, Elizabeth thought it over and told the cat that if she wanted, she had a little food. The cat wondered what she meant, while Elizabeth did something. She laid out an egg, and Chicken Little was stunned to see it. As she cracked the egg onto a leaf, she said it was fresh and packed with nutrition, because she was just going to lay one out anyway. She told them not to worry because it was unfertilized, so it would not hatch. The kittens found Elizabeth's egg delicious, while the cat said she did not know how to thank Elizabeth, but she cut her off and said she could not eat it herself, so she needed to throw it away, and she was happy the egg was not wasted. Then she asked if wasn't the cat a house cat, and if her owner did not feed him. The cat answered, and Elizabeth listened carefully. Meanwhile, Chicken Little sulked and said she would be able to lay eggs too, while KG noticed something that shocked him. He told Elizabeth to look at what he was seeing, so she wondered what it was. Elizabeth was greatly surprised because what she saw were a tremendous number of holes being dug by people, so she asked what those were. She also asked if the diggers were people, including women and the elderly. Then the cat pointed out where her owner was, one of the women digging, and she looked like a complete mess. KG said it seemed they were not in their right minds, and Elizabeth said that was not normal. She asked what was up with those people, and for Chicken Little it was creepy. The cat said it was all the monster's fault, which made KG and Elizabeth wonder, and KG asked what the cat meant. According to the cat, the monster had appeared 10 days ago, and she did not know why, but it forced people to dig holes day in and day out. She had heard it lived in a mansion outside town. We see that the monster had female slaves, and that he had horns and sharp teeth. The cat added that she was most worried about the children, because they were hidden in a shed and not fed properly, so Elizabeth asked how that could be. In the next scene, we see the children inside the shed. The oldest boy said he was sorry that all of this was happening. We learn his name is Say because a girl called him by his name and said it was not his fault. Say thought it over and told his companions they had endured enough. At this rate, he said, they might really die, so it was now or never. Then they grabbed a ladder, and Say told them to push with all their strength. At Say's signal, they charged forward and broke the door open, knocking into a guard outside. KG and Elizabeth heard the sound of the door opening from a distance. Back with the children, Say tackled a guard and told his companions to run while he held the guard down. They said they could not leave him, but he called them idiots because if the guards caught them, they would die. He said he would follow, so they should leave. However, a man arrived and told Say not to move, which shocked him. It was a police officer whose eyes were all white, and he pointed a gun at Say. Say could do nothing, and his companions were terrified and worried for him. The officer said there was no escape for Say, and just as he was about to shoot, he was suddenly electrocuted along with the guard beside him. Both of their bodies collapsed to the ground, and of course that was Elizabeth's doing. Say was shocked that chickens had saved him, while Elizabeth took out her phone and typed something into it. It turned out to be a word-to-voice application she used to tell Say that the officer and the guard were unconscious. She would appreciate it if Say could tie them up for her before they woke. Say was stunned by that and asked what was up with Elizabeth, while the other children were amazed and called Elizabeth a genius chicken. KG was surprised that the phone could communicate with humans, so he called it a crazy machine. When night fell, Say had tied up the officer and the guard. One companion told him to hurry, so he said he would follow, while he seemed to be feeling something around his stomach. They all ran, and Say told them to go to his house. Elizabeth thanked the cat because navigating at night was hard for chickens. The cat answered that it was no problem because she was happy to help. When they arrived at Say's house, Elizabeth asked if they had lost the officer and the guard. Say said he thought they had, and that those two were the only guards in town. Elizabeth asked if the police had not arrived to help, and Say said the police officer possessed by the monster was hiding the situation. Because of that, Elizabeth told KG the monster seemed quite cunning. At the same time, Sei found some instant noodles, chicken miso ramen flavor. They cooked them, and Sei said he was still surprised because he had not known there were chickens who could talk. While the children cooked, Elizabeth saw a photograph where we see Sei's mother and father. Before long, the children finished cooking, and they all ate together. Then Elizabeth mentioned that Sei seemed used to cooking, and he said his mom had died when he was little, so he had to learn. Elizabeth remembered the photo she saw, and said she got it. She thought for a moment after that, and said they were currently on a quest to defeat the demons appearing across Japan. She added that the monster in that town might be a demon. It was probably terrifying for the children to see their family members become possessed, but did the children have anything they could tell them about the monster? Sei thought it over, and said they had been locked up, so they did not know much. The other children did not answer, and Elizabeth said, "I see." Then she told KG they should check the demon's mansion tomorrow, but KG did not want to go. Elizabeth asked why, and KG reminded her he was only interested in avenging his sister. To be honest, he had no interest in random demons. Elizabeth asked if he would not help even if people were suffering, and he said no while sitting down. Elizabeth was shocked to hear that, so she said KG was horrible and that she had misjudged him. KG closed his eyes as if to rest, but he suddenly became alert. He panicked at that moment, because someone was approaching. He said it was bad and that the timing was wrong. However, the one he did not want to arrive was already there. It was the Lord of the Rut, or in simpler words, the god of lust, and it had awakened inside KG. He said that once or twice a year that extra potent natural urge struck him, so at that moment he wanted to release his lust. Elizabeth looked back at him, and he tried to mount her while saying he needed her, which shocked Elizabeth. She asked what KG was doing and called him a pervert. KG said only Elizabeth could calm the Lord of the Rut, so he begged her. While stopping KG with her foot, Elizabeth said it did not make sense and that it was just his instincts. The children saw them arguing and asked if it was a lover's quarrel. At that moment, Elizabeth realized she could use the situation to her advantage. So she told KG that if he helped defeat the demon tomorrow, she would grant his request. KG asked if that meant he had to wait until tomorrow, and Elizabeth answered yes. KG could no longer hold back the urge, so he bit his own wing in frustration. Then he agreed to what Elizabeth said, wondering if what he had done was necessary. A little later, they all went to sleep, and we noticed KG was not with them. He was staying in the bathroom, still trying to hold back his urges. We learn Elizabeth had him stay there because she said he was dangerous. Meanwhile, Sei was thinking while holding a photograph of his family, and he seemed to have a determined look on his face. The next morning, when Elizabeth woke up, she was surprised that Sei was gone. KG arrived and said he had not slept, but Elizabeth said not to worry about that because Sei was gone. At that moment, the children woke up and asked what was going on. Elizabeth used her phone to ask if they knew where Sei had gone. One of the younger kids said she might have gone to the monster's house, but an older child stopped her. Because of that, Elizabeth asked what was wrong, but the children did not answer right away. Meanwhile, Sei was already running, and just as one of his companions had said, he went to the monster's house. He slowly went inside and checked whether anyone saw him enter. He then faced the monster, who asked who was there. Back with Elizabeth, she pleaded with the children to tell her why Sei had gone to the monster. Because of that, one of the children spoke up. According to her, the monster was Sei's father, and she begged Elizabeth to help Sei because he would be killed. KG stood up after hearing that and told the child who spoke to take him to that monster. Then we see Sei absolutely terrified, while the monster, his father, asks him if he came there to be eaten and even laughs at him. Sei composes himself and pulls something out from behind his back. It is a gun, which he aims at the monster as he tells him to give his father back. The monster just laughs and calls the gun a neat toy, so KG repeats his demand with more threat, telling him to give his father back. The monster tells him to be quiet and flicks him, sending him flying and crashing hard. Then he sees a zipper open on the monster's body, and from inside it, his father's face appears, stuck inside the demon's body. Sei is shocked to see his father and begs him to stop what he is doing. His father calls out to him and says he is so close to accomplishing his dream. In a flashback, we learn that Sei's father used to bet on horse races. At first he was happy because his bet was winning, and he cheered with everything he had. However, it ended in disappointment, because he only almost won. Say called out to him and asked if he had borrowed money again, showing him the loan papers. His father admitted he borrowed money and then lost it betting on horse racing. Say became furious because their debt had already reached 5 million, so he asked how his father planned to pay it back. His father answered that he had a plan. According to Say's father, a friend had introduced him to an underground casino, and he would win the money back there. He would pay off the debt, and with the remaining winnings, he would start businesses all around the world. Then he would buy Say a house with a pool. Say could only let out a deep sigh after hearing that, and pleaded with his father to stop dreaming and get a steady job, because they would die broke before those dreams came true. His father became angry and said they would not get rich by just slaving away. After that, he walked into the forest and said that Say always underestimated him, but he would not give up. He would become a rich big shot, and he had potential. At that time, he suddenly lost his balance because he was drunk and fell off a cliff. At the bottom of that cliff, he saw something strange, so he dug it up and discovered an old chest. When he opened it, he found an old scroll and treasure. He was shocked that the scroll was actually a treasure map, so he studied it and decoded the text himself. He learned that somewhere in that area there was a treasure hidden by ancient thieves. He also learned that the treasure was worth 10 million yen, so he mentioned that even God was on his side now. He was overjoyed because he would finally become rich. At that moment, he felt a surging sensation as a throbbing zit appeared at the back of his neck. Then he started digging as if he were possessed by some power. While he kept digging, he repeated the words buried treasure over and over, but people called him an embarrassment and told him to stop. He dug for a year and found nothing, and during those times Say begged him to give it up. Even so, he told his son the treasure had to be there. He grew more and more frustrated as he kept repeating, "Where is my money?" which made the zit at the back of his neck throb even harder. Just like what happened to Yasuo, the zit seemed to explode and formed a demon, a monster that took control of Say's father's body. Say was utterly shocked to see it happen, and he even saw the monster stuff his father inside its body. Say tried to reach for his father, but there was nothing he could do. Back in the present, Say's father tells him that the time when his dream will come true is near, but Say can only beg his father to stop. His father then asks if he does not want to become rich so they can leave that town. He says Say could have all the toys and candy he wants, but before he can finish, Say tells him he does not care about any of that. He just wants to live a normal life with his father and does not need wealth. Say's father is not impressed and says he has heard enough, and then tells the monster to close the zipper over his face. Say repeatedly calls out to his father while crying in sorrow, but there is nothing he can do. The monster says what Say is saying makes no sense, because money is everything. Say continues to cry while the monster feels something within himself. His body starts to grow larger as he keeps shouting that he wants more money. He demands that they give him his money. It does not take long before the demon has destroyed the house from growing so big, all while insisting he wants money. Because of that, a wooden beam is about to fall on Say, so he just covers his head for protection. Thankfully, Keiji arrives just in time to save him and carry him out of the house. The monster is shocked to see them, because standing before him are Keiji, Elizabeth, and Chicken Little, all ready to fight. Elizabeth says that just as she thought, the monster is a demon variant, though she did not expect a giant. Say is surprised that the three came for him, while the demon is confused about the arrival of these chickens. Keiji calls him a scumbag and tells him to shut up about money, because it is making his crown curl. Chicken Little shouts for Keiji to beat the demon up, and the demon cannot believe a team of livestock is going to fight him. He laughs and says how interesting it is, as he opens the zipper on his forehead. Elizabeth is alarmed to see this, and tells Keiji not to look. Thanks to his lightning-fast reflexes, Keiji jumps away, but Chicken Little is left behind, and sees the flash of light from the demon's forehead. Her eyes turn pure white, and she keeps smashing her head against a tree. Elizabeth remarks that this is how the demon possesses people, and she tells him that if he wants buried treasure, he should dig for it himself. He should not drag other people into it, and she calls him filth. Quiet, worm, the demon replies as he tries to punch Elizabeth. She dodges and immediately charges at him, asking how dare he call her a worm. Her attack lands on the demon's hand and shocks him, but it almost has no effect, which surprises Elizabeth. The demon laughs and asks if she did anything at all, thinking the voltage she used is not enough. Then Keiji charges in, trying to kick the demon from the side, and tells him he is the one he is fighting. The demon opens a zipper on the side of his head where Keiji is attacking and tries to bite him, but Keiji quickly changes direction. Keiji is shocked by what the demon did, and the demon opens more of his zippers, which frightens Sei even more. The demon's body ends up looking like it is covered in mouths everywhere, and he tells Keiji and Elizabeth he will fight them both. He says he will eat them, but he prefers to devour money. Keiji comments that he did not see that coming, while Elizabeth realizes that the zippers all over the demon's body are actually wallet zippers. Then Keiji rushes in and asks the demon how about this as he attacks. He hits the demon with a cock-a-doodle-doo. However, the demon dodges, which shocks both Keiji and Elizabeth. Keiji's attack hits a rock instead, which explodes. Sei is also stunned as Keiji lands. The demon says Keiji's attack is nice, but if it does not hit him, what is the point? To Keiji, this demon is turning into a problem. At the same time, Sei calls out to him and begs him not to kill his father. Keiji does not answer, while Elizabeth is deep in thought. She then comes up with an idea and orders Keiji to lure the demon to a certain place. Keiji instantly moves into action and, at the same time, the mother cat finds Chicken Little banging her forehead against the tree. She picks her up and tells her to stop. Meanwhile, Keiji and Elizabeth are luring the demon away to another location. The demon asks where they are going, and we see that they head to an electrical tower. There, Elizabeth tells Keiji to stall the demon a bit longer, so he just keeps dodging the demon's attacks over and over. In the chaos, the treasures Sei's father had been searching for are uncovered. Elizabeth thinks that her plan is the only way to avoid killing Sei's father, and at the same time, she presses something on her thunder rod. Because of that, something shoots out of her bag, and it is her grappling hook, since she intends to borrow electricity from the tower. She knows she cannot handle an enormous amount of voltage, so she will regulate it. She then swings around on the electrical line and realizes the demon's back is wide open. She has found her opening to strike, and that caused the demon's entire body to be electrocuted. The demon is in immense pain, and Elizabeth gives Keiji the signal to attack, so he moves. He inhales deeply and strikes the demon with a cock-a-doodle-doo. As usual, the demon's face swells with lumps and soon after explodes. His body collapses afterward, and he is finally defeated. Because of that, the people regain consciousness and ask why they have been digging. They climb out of the holes, while Chicken Little is being watched by the kids and cats waiting for her to wake up. When she wakes, she says her head hurts a bit, and Keiji calls out to Elizabeth. He reminds her of her promise to grant his wish if he helped defeat the demon, so he gets ready for it to be fulfilled. Elizabeth pretends not to know what he is talking about, which shocks Keiji. Elizabeth asks if he is joking, and says does he not have a thing for young girls? So why would she sleep with a pervert like him? And Keiji explodes in anger. Then we move to the demon's body, from which Sei's father emerges. Sei immediately runs to him and tries to wake him up. When Sei's father opens his eyes, the first thing he sees is a chicken in front of him, which scares him half to death. That chicken is Keiji, furious and seething. So Sei's father is terrified and begs for help. Keiji says he fought a pointless battle and took a hit for Sei's father, so this is all his fault. He adds that humans like him do not deserve to live, so he should die. Sei is frightened because Keiji attacks his father. His father is hurt, and Elizabeth is shocked to see it, so she asks Keiji what he is doing. Sei shields his father and tells Keiji to stop. Because of that, Keiji tells Sei not to stand in his way, as he knows how much damage can his attack do. Elizabeth is also one of those telling Keiji to stop, and because Sei shields his father, the two of them share a moment. Sei's father pushes him away from Keiji's attack zone and begs Keiji that if he has to kill someone, he should kill him instead. Sei is in tears, while Keiji remains silent. Sei's father realizes that maybe he really is scum and truly worthless. He has been a burden to the people in that village, so maybe he does deserve to die. Even so, he pleads with Keiji not to kill Sei, because he is his son and he means everything to him. He begs Keiji to at least spare Sei. Sei is deeply moved to hear this, while his father continues to plead. Keiji listens to everything in silence, then turns his back. He starts walking away, which surprises both father and son. Even Elizabeth has no idea what Keiji is doing, and walks over to them. Using her phone, she tells Sei's father that she hopes he remembers that feeling for the rest of his life. Then she tells Sei to stay strong and says goodbye. After that, they leave, and only the father and son remain. Sei's father says he must be the kind of guy who gets scolded by chickens, and to think he believed he could become a big shot. Meanwhile, Elizabeth catches up to Keiji and tells him she saw what he did. Keiji replies that if Sei's father still cannot change after this, then he really is scum. Elizabeth says she is impressed, and Keiji sees it as an opening. He declares that in the end, love conquers all, and then says he loves Elizabeth and tries to make love with her. That angers Elizabeth, who says that is not happening and kicks Keiji very hard in the crown jewels. Keiji is in terrible pain and suddenly drops flat on his back. Even so, he stays calm because, as he puts it, the Lord of the Rut has left. At that moment, he is surrounded by the cats and Elizabeth, who wonders if she might have gone too far. Then we learn that someone recorded footage of their battle and called it insane. He adds that it could go viral. In the next scene, we move to a classroom where the topic of conversation is a viral video in which a demon's head was blown off. The same thing is being talked about on the train, and one person mentions that the rooster in the video is nuts, so we learn that it is Keiji and Elizabeth's viral video from their fight against Sei's father. All around town, that is what everyone is talking about. They gush over how cute the chickens are, amazed by Elizabeth's use of electricity, think the two of them are really strong, and some even ask if there are more videos. While Keiji and the others are walking around, they notice that people are filming them. According to one woman, Keiji really is the rooster from the video, while a man tells someone on the phone that he is looking at the viral chickens. Elizabeth asks what is going on, and Chicken Little says maybe everyone has just noticed how cute she is, while Keiji is deep in thought. Then two men with catching nets start chasing them, which shocks them. Keiji says that is bad, and tells his companions to run. One of the men shouts for them to come back, and as they run, a bird in a tree spots them. The bird thinks about what it is seeing, and we learn that it is actually a chicken as well, who says he has finally found Keiji. Then we move to a restaurant, where a man is talking to his mother. He is the one who captured the video, and he tells his mom that his video has already gotten more than 1 million views. He says he told her he could become famous. He then tells his mother he will call her back later, and he says goodbye. He is overjoyed because he is on his way to becoming a famous YouTuber. His original plan was to upload videos of hunting rare bugs, until last week when, instead of bugs, what he discovered was chickens fighting a demon. He says he followed them all day until he reached that city, but it seems he has lost them. Still, he thinks they probably have not gotten far, so he will hunt them down and capture the ultimate video, because those chickens are his. Then we go back to Keiji and the others who are still running away. They run through a gate, and from there Elizabeth looks back to see if the men are still following them. Thankfully, the two do not spot them, and Elizabeth hears clucking from chickens. She is surprised to see a chicken coop where they entered and realizes it is part of a school. Then she is shocked when she hears the chickens shouting, because the hens inside the coop are calling for help, saying there is a perverted rooster. Elizabeth is stunned when she realizes they are talking about Keiji, and Chicken Little tells him cheating is not allowed. She tells Keiji to calm down, while he is in the middle of forcing himself on a hen. Because of that, Elizabeth shocks him, causing him to collapse on the floor. Chicken Little tries to wake him, but when he does not wake up, she gets angry at Elizabeth for almost killing him. She says that just because Keiji does not love Elizabeth does not mean Elizabeth can bully him. Elizabeth is offended and asks why she would ever need the love of a sorry excuse of a man like Keiji, and says Chicken Little has some nerve. She even asks what is up with Chicken Little's body, since she still has not grown, and calls her a runt, who insisted she is not like that. Chicken Little yells that she will not forgive Elizabeth, and Elizabeth fires back with a right back at you. The other chickens are completely stunned to see them fighting, and one rooster even asks what is wrong with them. He notes that one of them can use tools, Elizabeth, and one of them is dangerous, Keiji. He also calls the Chicken Little, weird, since she is trying to punch Elizabeth but cannot reach because Elizabeth is holding her back with her foot. The rooster is also puzzled that Chicken Little has riding on her back and says he has never seen such a short-tempered chick before. For him, the strangest of them all is Keiji, because he broke the lock on the chicken coop and, as soon as he walked in, try to get freaky with the hens without even courting them. The rooster calls him insensitive and says he does not show any signs of intelligence. He also calls him the worst dud he has ever met. Keiji is exactly the kind of rooster he never wants to become. At that moment, Elizabeth notices that the other chickens are staring at them, so she apologizes for the intrusion. She also says they are not weirdos, although to the other chickens they are. Elizabeth explains that they are being chased by bad men and asks if it would be alright for them to hide there for a bit. One of the chickens agrees, so Elizabeth thanks him while taking something out of her bag. A rooster wonders what it is and is shocked to see it is a phone. He realizes he has seen one before and says that is the device humans use to communicate, so he is stunned that Elizabeth can use it. At that point, Elizabeth confirms that just as she thought, someone has uploaded their video online and it already has lots of views. At that time, Keiji wakes up and asks what Elizabeth just said. Elizabeth says it is not good because traveling will be even harder for them now. Keiji thinks about it, but his train of thought is interrupted when someone arrives and says he has been looking for him. Keiji is stunned because he knows the one calling out to him. It is Tatsuo, along with his flunky, who is mad Keiji called him a flunky because his name is Kokichi. Keiji is shocked that Tatsuo has chased him that far, and Tatsuo says of course he has, because he has a debt to pay, so he will chase him to the ends of the earth. However, he says Keiji is very hard to track down, because when he heard Keiji had left, he tried to follow him but could not pick up his trail. That was until 3 days ago, when he saw two girls watching Keiji's viral video. He was shocked when he saw it, and could not understand why it was so popular, but it made his work easier. A rooster wonders what is going to happen, while Tatsuo asks Keiji if he has not forgotten what happened 1 year ago. Keiji answers that that was the last time he saw Tatsuo, and we flash back to that time. We see Keiji's sister Sarah being petted by someone. That person asks Keiji why he does not want to be petted, but Keiji does not answer. He just stares at that person before walking away. Sarah follows him, but he tells her not to. She sadly asks why not and invites Keiji to play, but he tells her again to stay away. A little later, while Keiji is eating, he hears a loud scream and thinks it must be Sarah. He runs toward where the scream came from and finds a black chicken. This is Tatsuo, who has been looking for him, and with him are a hen and his flunky, who is holding a nail at Sarah. The flunky gets angry at being called a flunky by Keiji because, he says, his name is Kokichi. Keiji sees Sarah with Kokichi's sharp nail aimed at her, and asks what that is supposed to mean. Tatsuo calls him a bastard and asks if he touched his girl Mako. Keiji insists he did not, because Mako threw herself at him. Tatsuo is shocked and asks Mako if that is true. Mako answers that she could not help it because Keiji is totally her type. Tatsuo says that no matter, since he was looking for an excuse to beat Keiji up anyway. Keiji then asks if they took Sarah hostage to keep his hands tied. In a fair fight, Tatsuo would not stand a chance, since he is currently 0 for 8, but Tatsuo argues that he has only lost 7 times. He adds that Keiji is right that they took Sarah hostage to keep his hands tied, because he will use any means necessary to finally beat him. He tells Keiji not to move or they will cut up Sarah's pretty face. Keiji is annoyed, and when Tatsuo charges in, he really does not move and just takes the kick to the face. Sarah is worried because Keiji is sent flying, and Tatsuo immediately follows up with a kick to Keiji's stomach. He then follows with pecks to Keiji's neck, drawing blood. Sarah is in tears as she watches, helpless because her brother will not fight back. Keiji just takes all of Tatsuo's attacks, and Sarah begs Tatsuo to stop. It gets to the point where Keiji is coughing up blood, and Sarah desperately wants it to end. On her final shout of "stop it," one of her tears suddenly catches fire, which shocks Kokichi. The fire surrounds him so he cannot move, and Tatsuo sees it and asks what that is. Keiji also sees it and uses the opportunity to fight back. So Tatsuo is suddenly shocked to find Keiji right in front of him high up in the air. Keiji gives him a heel kick to the head, sending him flying a great distance. Kokichi runs to him right away, and we see that Tatsuo appears to be knocked out. Sarah then rushes to Keiji, telling him how scared she was, and Keiji reassures her that she is alright now. At the same time, Keiji wonders what exactly happened to Tatsuo that allowed Sarah to escape, and how it is connected to her tears. Back in the present, Keiji remembers that after that event, Sarah was taken by a demon. Tatsuo says that for the past year, He has dreamed of nothing but exacting his revenge, and today his dream will come true. Keiji asks what sort of cheap tricks Tatsuo has this time, and Tatsuo just laughs and says Keiji is as confident as ever. However, he says he wonders how Keiji will act once he sees what he is about to do. We learn that Tatsuo now has a throbbing zit at the back of his neck, and just like what happened to Sei's father and to Yasuo, it begins to activate, which alarms Keiji. As Tatsuo transforms, he asks Keiji if he knows what happens when a person is taken over by total hatred. He says hatred turns into love. Keiji and Elizabeth are stunned by Tatsuo's transformation, and so is the rooster from the chicken coop. Tatsuo says that his deep hatred for Keiji has awakened something inside him. Elsewhere in the school, an assembly is taking place, where the head teacher is expressing his gratitude to all the chickens. They eat the weeds and bugs for them. Every day, the chickens lay eggs for them, so they should be thankful, but he does not get to finish because a huge shadow falls over them. It is a gigantic demon chicken that looks like Keiji. The students start to run away in a panic, and the viral VTuber sees them. He is shocked to see a giant rooster and wonders if it is somehow related to Keiji, so he decides to investigate. Demon Tatsuo faces off against Keiji, and Keiji tells Elizabeth not to interfere because he will handle it himself. So Elizabeth says he can be her guest. A rooster hides behind a tree and asks if Keiji is serious about fighting that demon monster alone. From the demon's chest, Tatsuo says that his love for Keiji is so powerful that he created that beast in Keiji's image. He asks how it feels to be killed by a giant avatar of oneself. Keiji replies that to think Tatsuo would go so far as to become a demon makes him truly an irredeemable scum. Tatsuo says, as he moves to crush Keiji with his foot, that he will take whatever form he needs to kill Keiji. Keiji backflips away to dodge, and then runs off, which confuses Tatsuo. Keiji keeps leaping up the school building, and when he reaches the top, he is alarmed because Tatsuo is about to peck him, though he of course manages to dodge. Tatsuo pecks again and again, while Keiji just keeps jumping to avoid it. However, as Keiji is about to land, Tatsuo times his strike, which shocks Keiji. Tatsuo pecks down with all his strength, but he is surprised when Keiji is no longer there. He wonders where he went, only to realize he has pecked nothing but the building. Then he sees Keiji diving head first, straight toward his eye. Tatsuo is in intense pain, and Chicken Little is overjoyed, cheering Keiji on. The rooster hiding behind the tree is shocked that Keiji is winning, while the VTuber is filming from a distance. He says he has hit the jackpot because he is about to capture another hit video. Tatsuo then tells Keiji not to get cocky, because now he is really pissed off. He flaps his wings and tells Keiji to try this, which surprises Keiji. Because of what Tatsuo does, a powerful gust of wind slams into Keiji and blows him away until he crashes into a rubber tire. Elizabeth and Chicken Little get swept up as well, and Elizabeth grabs the chick so she does not get blown away. Elizabeth ends up wedged in a rubber tire stuck in the ground, while the rooster and the VTuber cling desperately to avoid being blown off their feet. The VTuber says he will get that video even if it kills him. Tatsuo keeps flapping, and the wind is so strong that tiles are ripped off roofs and many things are destroyed. Tatsuo laughs loudly because Keiji cannot lift a finger against him, and as we can see, that is true. Keiji admits it is true that he can barely raise a feather, but says he can still inhale the wind. Once he has fully inhaled, he tells Tatsuo to see which is stronger, Tatsuo's gust or his cock-a-doodle-doo. Tatsuo is stunned, and then Keiji unleashes his cock-a-doodle-doo. Little by little, it pierces through Tatsuo's gust of wind, even as Tatsuo shouts that Keiji cannot defeat him. At that moment, Elizabeth and Chicken Little shout Keiji's name, while he continues his attack. His blow is about to reach Tatsuo, and Tatsuo has no way to stop it. A massive cock-a-doodle-doo slams into Tatsuo, his head swells with lumps, and then it explodes. His body falls, and the surrounding chickens look stunned. It does not take long before Chicken Little starts cheering because Keiji has defeated Tatsuo, while the rooster is in utter shock. Keiji stands strong and victorious, and says that the difference between the original and the copy is as great as the distance between heaven and hell. Then we see Tatsuo emerge from the demon body, and Kokichi runs toward him. Meanwhile, the VTuber says he got the footage and that it will go viral, But to his surprise, nothing is showing on his video recorder because it was not recording. We go back to Keiji, and Chicken Little praises him for being so cool. The rooster reflects that, now that he thinks about it, ever since he came there as a chick, he never questioned his life and simply ate the food that was given to him. He lived a sheltered and carefree life. Keiji, on the other hand, acts on his instincts, stands up to beasts without fear, and wins. He says that they are both roosters, and yet Keiji is on a completely different level. He admits he was wrong about his first impression of Keiji, because Keiji is exactly the kind of rooster he wants to become. So he calls out to Keiji and asks if he can become his apprentice, but Keiji tells him to forget it. The three of them leave, and the rooster is left behind, speechless. In the next scene, Keiji can be seen playing a slot machine in a casino. After playing and spamming the slot machine for a while, luck finally poured down on him because he hit the jackpot. He was overjoyed and remarked that he could get used to this. Then we went back to 1 hour earlier, when Keiji and the others were once again being chased by people who wanted to catch them. As they kept running to escape, they ran into other people who also wanted to capture them. They ended up surrounded by people who told them they were caught. However, Keiji told Elizabeth to jump, so the three of them were not captured. They jumped from rooftop to rooftop to get away, and before long, they were finally able to rest under a bridge. There, Elizabeth checked her phone and saw that the view count on their viral video was still climbing, having already reached 1,328,740 views. She then asked why people wanted to capture them so badly and wondered if they were planning to sell them to a circus. Chicken Little commented that being famous was such a burden. Elizabeth said she thought they had no choice but to hide until their popularity blew over, and Chicken Little agreed that they had no choice. Keiji thought for a moment, then asked if they really wanted him to hide. He said he would not accept that, and as he started to walk away, he declared that he would keep moving forward, which surprised Elizabeth. She asked what he was saying, since the town was full of people waiting to ambush them, so going out there was basically suicide. Clearly annoyed, Keiji asked why he should have to hide from humans when he lived the way he wanted. Elizabeth insisted that it was a bad idea and told him not to make the mistake of underestimating humans. Keiji replied that he did not take orders from anyone, so if he said he was leaving, he was leaving. Elizabeth then asked why he had to be so stubborn and told him to think rationally, calling him a bird brain. Keiji told her to stop pestering him, while Chicken Little begged them not to fight. Keiji said he was done and that this was his goodbye to Elizabeth because he would continue his travels alone. He left after that, which made Chicken Little cry as she ran after him, saying he could not go. She chased after Keiji, and Elizabeth was shocked. Elizabeth said Chicken Little should not leave either, while Chicken Little told Keiji to wait for her. Keiji wandered around near some houses, and as he walked, he called Elizabeth an annoying hen. At the same time, a man tried to catch him with a net, but he noticed and quickly reacted, kicking the net and breaking it. The man was completely stunned, while Keiji looked furious. Keiji yelled at him to knock it off, which terrified the man. He was too shocked and afraid to move as Keiji walked away and told him not to mess with him, even calling him a little shit. As Keiji continued wandering, he spotted a pachinko casino and became curious about what people were doing inside. He noticed that the machines inside were the machines humans like to play with. He thought about it briefly, then decided to go in, reasoning that it would not hurt to take a load off. As soon as he entered, he heard a mixture of rings, plunks, and buzzes coming from the machines. Because of that, he asked himself how humans can enjoy themselves amid all that noise and commented that humans really are crazy. Then he saw someone playing and hitting the jackpot, causing a huge amount of coins to pour out. That was when he realized how humans made money from these machines, and at that moment someone asked him if he wanted to give it a try. Keiji was so startled that he jumped back. He was confused that this person was speaking directly into his mind and recognized the smell. He asked if this was a demon, and the person finally turned to him. The man said he was indeed a demon and that his name was Morio. Keiji asked what a demon was doing in a place like that, and Morio told him not to be so mean because he had no interest in fighting. Keiji realized that he could not sense any violent intent coming from Morio, and Morio even told him he would let him try the game if he wanted. Keiji did not answer right away, but he eventually started playing, and he kept winning over and over. He even said he could get used to that, and Morio commented that it was not bad. Then a casino staff member called out to them, saying that pets were forbidden on the premises. Because of that, the two of them left, and Morio looked shocked, so Keiji asked him what was wrong. Morio said he had started with a single coin he picked up off the ground, and now he had all that money. Keiji was also shocked that Morio had been able to get that much money from just one coin. That was when he realized that Morio had not had any money to begin with. So if all that money had come from something he had simply found, then he should have been able to share his wealth. He wanted to ask him to buy some sea urchin. However, Morio said he did not feel good about his winnings and planned to return the money, which shocked Keiji. Keiji tried to explain that even if that coin had not originally belonged to him, it had been Morio's luck that earned those winnings. He said it would have been unwise to throw away such a gift from God. Morio asked if that was really how it was, and Keiji answered that of course it was. After that, the two of them simply stared at each other for a moment before Keiji made a request. He asked Morio to buy him a sea urchin, and Morio said he had not known roosters could eat that. Keiji was moved to tears of joy because he had dreamed of eating sea urchin again for so long, so he dug in. However, instead of being happy, he was disgusted and spat it out. He asked what that was and whether it was rotten, because it tasted completely different from the fresh sea urchin he had at the beach. He cried in frustration because he had thought he was finally going to satisfy his long-held craving, and he ended up screaming in sorrow. Then he suddenly fainted, which startled Morio. Morio tried to wake Keiji up, but to no avail. After several hours, Keiji finally woke and asked where he was. Morio told him he was at his house, because he had fainted and he had brought him there. Keiji said he understood and that he now owed Morio. He then asked if Morio lived there alone, and Morio answered that he had been living there for a while and sometimes went into town for fun. However, he felt most comfortable there because it had a nice view and was quiet, so it was his favorite spot. Keiji then asked where the human who had created Morio was, and Morio paused for a moment before saying that human was probably happily living somewhere. Keiji listened carefully as Morio started to tell his story, saying he had been born 6 months ago. In a flashback, we see his human version being told by a doctor in a hospital that he has stage 4 stomach cancer and only about 1 month left to live. Human Morio was stunned, and he later headed to a park to be alone with his thoughts. There he contemplated his life, having lived an uneventful life for 47 years. He was deeply saddened, having never even had a girlfriend, and he wondered why he had even been born. He felt that everything was too much for him, because he did not want to die yet. He kept repeating that he wanted to live until a throbbing zit formed on the back of his neck. On his final shout of "I want to live," the zit activated, and a demon was born in his image, but giant and muscular. Human Morio was shocked as a monster emerged from his body, saying it had been born from his desire to live. The demon told him that so he could die without regrets, and that he would live on for both of them. Human Morio asked how that was supposed to help him, but he was cut off by his phone buzzing. The hospital was calling, and it was the doctor who told him that he actually did not have cancer, which surprised him. The doctor apologized, saying he must have mixed up the charts, and that there was nothing wrong with Morio, who was in perfect health. Human Morio was delighted because it meant he got to live. The demon Morio then asked what would become of him. However, the human counterpart ignored him and continued celebrating. He walked away saying he felt like he had been reborn, and he would look for a girlfriend, all while leaving the demon Morio alone in the park with nothing he could do. Back in the present, Demon Morio told Keiji that he had been supposed to live in place of his human counterpart, so he wondered what his purpose was now. He said he had been born as a fluke and called himself a creature with no purpose. He added that he had been depressed and that his body was slowly shrinking. Keiji thought for a moment, then told him that in their world, there was no such thing as a meaningless life. Morio listened, looking on the verge of tears, as Keiji continued that Morio should simply live. Sooner or later, he said, Morio would find his purpose. Morio seemed touched by what Keiji said, who reflected that there were people who were not alive even if others wanted them to be. So he thought of Sarah, his own sister. Morio then called Keiji a good guy, but Keiji said he hardly was. Morio smiled and went to get something from his house, which made Keiji curious. What Morio brought out was sake, which he said he had bought with money he had earned from working at the factory. He said he was in a drinking mood that day and invited Keiji to drink with him. Keiji agreed, and the two started drinking together. Morio said that sake that was shared tasted so delicious, while Keiji commented that being drunk did not feel so bad. Then Keiji stood up, saying something was rising inside him, and immediately threw up. Morio was shocked and asked what was wrong, but Keiji said he was fine. He then told Morio he would show him something special, so Morio should watch, and he performed the chicken dance, wiggling his whole body. Morio laughed uncontrollably and called it a strange dance. Before long, the sun began to set, and he prepared to leave. Morio told him that had been the most fun he had ever had in his life, and that he was glad to have met him. Keiji answered that he was happy to have met Morio too, and now he knew there were demons like him out there. They said goodbye to each other, and Keiji started on his way. As he traveled, he wondered where he would sleep that night. He also wondered where Elizabeth and Chicken Little were now, but said they were no longer his problem. At that moment, he heard a loud rumble and became curious. It was followed by many birds taking flight and screeching non-stop. From that, Keiji realized that a dangerous storm was approaching. In the next scene, it had started raining extremely hard, with thunder and lightning along with it. In the middle of that heavy rain, Elizabeth and Chicken Little still wandered around, still looking for Keiji. Chicken Little kept shouting Keiji's name over and over, asking where he was. Elizabeth asked her what she was doing because they needed to go somewhere safe, but Chicken Little argued that it was so dark that she would not be able to see anything anyway. Then, she still kept searching for Keiji, which irritated Elizabeth. She told Chicken Little to straighten up because Keiji had already left and was long gone, so Chicken Little should forget him already, since he was a horrible man. Chicken Little answered that she would keep following Keiji, and she did not want to leave Keiji's side. She also asked why Elizabeth had even stuck around if she hated Keiji that much. She said Elizabeth always bullied him and treated him terribly. So she called Elizabeth terrible and said she hated her, all while giving her a menacing glare. An awkward silence settled between them after that, and Elizabeth found herself thinking. In the middle of that moment, a little girl saw them and assumed they were mother and child. She even called Elizabeth a stylish hen and said Chicken Little was cute because she had riding on her back. The girl felt sorry for them because they were soaked, so she took something out of her bag. While she wiped Chicken Little off, she said they would catch colds, then questioned whether that even happened to chickens. Elizabeth replied that it did, but of course the girl did not understand her. The girl also asked what the two of them were doing there and whether they were lost. She thought for a moment, then asked if they wanted to come with her. She brought them to her grandfather's house, and because the house was so small and poorly made, water leaked inside, which dripped onto buckets and basins. Chicken Little even jumped into one of the basins while saying there were so many little pools. As for Elizabeth, she only followed the girl because she seemed kind, but she wondered if the girl had brought them to a house or a barn. At the same time, the girl handed medicine to her grandfather, so we learned the girl's name was Misuzu when her grandfather thanked her. Then Elizabeth thanked Misuzu for helping them by using her phone, which shocked Misuzu. She asked what it was, so Elizabeth introduced herself and explained that she could use smartphones to speak. She also introduced Chicken Little, who did not want to be introduced without her permission. Misuzu was thrilled by what she heard, so she called Elizabeth clever and asked her grandfather if he had heard that. The old man said chickens truly had changed since he was young. After some time, Misuzu offered Elizabeth and Chicken Little some wheat because it was all she could find, so Elizabeth thanked her. Chicken Little ate right away and clearly enjoyed it, while Elizabeth used her phone as she sat there thinking. Meanwhile, Misuzu washed dishes, which Elizabeth watched for a moment, before asking if Misuzu and her grandfather lived there alone. Misuzu said yes, because her parents had died in a car accident when she was still young, so her grandfather had adopted her. After washing the dishes, Misuzu worked on her homework and even hummed as she did, while Elizabeth asked if she enjoyed studying. Misuzu answered yes, because she wanted to become a doctor so she could cure her grandfather for free. Because of that, Chicken Little called her an honorable child. She added that Misuzu had what it took, which made Elizabeth wonder who Chicken Little is to say that. Then Elizabeth spoke to Misuzu and said she had something she wanted to ask, so Misuzu asked what it was. Elizabeth explained that she had researched it on the web, and it looked like the area they were in was experiencing record levels of rainfall. On top of that, they were close to a river, So she asked if shouldn't Misuzu and her grandfather evacuate. The grandfather said they did not need to worry because in his 85 years of living there, they had never had a disaster and the rain would stop soon. Elizabeth hoped the old man was right, but unfortunately, water level on the river kept rising and was about to overflow, and an evacuation alert was announced. There was a flood warning near the river, so people were being told to evacuate. At that time, Elizabeth, Chicken Little, and Misuzu and her grandfather had been asleep, while water kept dripping inside the house. Chicken Little and Misuzu slept deeply, while Elizabeth stayed awake, lost in thought. She did not hear the evacuation alert because of how loud the water splashed, and she kept thinking about what Chicken Little had asked her earlier, about why she had still stuck around even though she hated Keiji, so she carefully thought about what answer she would give. For her, the reason she stayed with Keiji was because she needed his strength to defeat demons, but her anger at him for using and leaving her before would not disappear. Even so, when she finally found Keiji, she could not bring herself to kill him. She also could not resist Keiji when he kissed her after they met again, so she asked herself if she still felt something for him. Because her emotions were such a tangled mix, she realized she did not understand her own feelings. The rain grew even stronger, and someone started knocking on the house at 4:35 a.m. Misuzu woke up to the knocking, as the person knocking asked if anyone was inside. Misuzu told the person that there was someone inside and to wait a second, and at the same time she unlocked the door. The man outside immediately asked if she had not heard the evacuation alert because the river had overflowed. Misuzu was shocked by that, and it also got Elizabeth and Chicken Little's attention. After that, the scene shifted to the river, where the water overflowed from the sheer volume of water and flowed toward the village. The man said Misuzu and her grandfather were in a flood zone, and it would not be long before the floodwater reached them, so they needed to evacuate immediately. As he left, he also said he would check the other houses, while Misuzu acted right away. She grabbed her grandfather's wheelchair and told him the river was flooding, so they had to evacuate. Chicken Little helped too, jumping onto the old man's bed and said they needed to hurry. The grandfather did not speak right away, so Misuzu asked what is it. The old man answered that he would not go, which stunned Misuzu, Chicken Little, and Elizabeth. He explained that he was already too weak and would only be a burden to everyone, and he could not do that. Misuzu asked what he was talking about, because if they did not leave, he would die, while Chicken Little smacked him on the head, telling him not to be stupid and calling him Baldy. The old man paused for a second, then told Misuzu that she was a good child, and too good of a granddaughter for an old man like him. He added that he did not have much longer to live either way, and he was grateful for the 85 years he had lived because it was more than enough. Misuzu begged him not to say that and pleaded for them to go together. The grandfather said Misuzu needed to save herself and begged her to leave, but Misuzu kept insisting that her grandfather had to come with her. Then Elizabeth spoke through her phone and said that if the grandfather wanted to die, then he could die. Everyone looked at her after that, and she had a serious look on her face. She added that the only problem was that it was not the time for that. If the old man died, what would happen to Misuzu? The old man and Misuzu had nothing to say in that moment, while Elizabeth continued that even with the way the two of them lived, Misuzu still worked hard to cure her grandfather's disease. So she asked the grandfather if he would really leave behind such a hard-working girl in this world alone, and she told him not to make Misuzu experience any more grief. Misuzu only had him, and as Elizabeth said that, she teared up. Chicken Little thought about Elizabeth's speech and seemed touched by it. The grandfather did too, as he thought about his only granddaughter, Misuzu. Then he smiled and said he never thought he would live to see the day he would be scolded by a chicken. After that, they all set out together, with Misuzu and her grandfather wearing coats, and Misuzu pushing his wheelchair. She struggled to push it, but she gave it her all. She kept going until she finally saw the emergency center at the top of a very steep ramp. She told her grandfather they were almost there and would be safe soon, but she heard a rumbling that caught her attention. To her shock, it was the flood rushing towards them, and the force of it was so strong that it carried countless things along with it. They were terrified to see that, while Elizabeth shouted for them to climb the hill, but all Misuzu heard was the scream of a chicken. Even so, Misuzu poured all her strength into pushing her grandfather up the hill, but unfortunately, the wheel got stuck in a crack in the ground, and she could not push it anymore. Her grandfather told her the front wheel was stuck, and at that moment the floodwater was getting closer and closer. Misuzu panicked and said they were done for, while Elizabeth jumped into action and pushed the wheelchair with her head too, slamming it to the wheelchair to hopefully give it a boost. Misuzu was shocked that Elizabeth was helping, who told her it was not over until it was truly over. Chicken Little saw that and seemed to think of something. She then came to a realization that even though Elizabeth had no reason to like her, she had still saved her before, and now Elizabeth was risking her own life to save people. Now that she thought about it, even on the first day she met her, Elizabeth was already the kind of person who simply had to help others. She had even said before that a world filled with so much suffering was not just. So for Chicken Little, she could see it clearly, that Elizabeth was the true embodiment of the word duty. Elizabeth struggled just to push Misuzu's grandfather's wheelchair, and then she suddenly heard tweets, because Chicken Little was helping push as well. Elizabeth was surprised she was helping, and the three of them gave everything they had to push the old man upward. The rushing flood got closer, so the grandfather said it was already too late and they should just leave him behind. But Misuzu, Elizabeth, and Chicken Little refused, who told him not to give up. Chicken Little even added that she would show him her full power, and she did to that point that her eyes almost bulged out, and the wheelchair finally came free from being stuck. Because of that, they made it up the ramp before the flood could reach them and carry them away. Before long, they reached the evacuation center, and they were all gasping for breath. Misuzu thanked Chicken Little and Elizabeth for saving them, and the grandfather said he thanked them from the bottom of his heart. Chicken Little said that now the grandfather could not die until Misuzu grew old, but all the people heard was the chirping of a chick. Misuzu smiled at Chicken Little after that, while Elizabeth fell into thought. In her mind, if she was being honest, they could not have pushed Misuzu's grandfather up the ramp without Chicken Little, so she praised her and said her strength was not bad. At that moment, Chicken Little kissed Misuzu on the cheek, while Elizabeth wondered where she had gotten that strength. Somewhere else, Morio watched the rain over the city from the edge of a cliff. He just stood there, letting all the rain hit him, and he commented on the strength of the storm, and he hoped Keiji was safe. Then he heard loud rumblings, so he turned toward where it came from and immediately realized they were vibrations. He quickly touched the ground to feel it and asked where the vibrations came from, because he had a bad feeling about it. He closed his eyes to focus his senses through his hands, and before long, he pinpointed where the vibrations of the rumbling came from. His eyes opened wide in shock, and he said it was terrible because the vibrations he felt came from a dam cracking, and it was about to break. He asked himself what he should do, because if the reservoir water flooded the town, that town surrounded by mountains would be completely submerged. In the next scene, the focus shifted to another part of the city, where the male VTuber was riding a bicycle. He was asking himself where the chickens were, saying that they could not have gone far in rain that heavy. He added that he would find them no matter what happened, and that he would get even more footage. He was certain that he would become a successful VTuber, and that he needed to become one. This was because he said he would never forget the humiliation that had happened to him. In a flashback, the scene shifted to the time he was referring to 3 months earlier. Inside an office, the VTuber was called by his co-worker as Ibokura, and he was asked if he had anything he wanted to say to him and their colleague. Ibokura turned around with an arrogant look and asked his co-workers what they were talking about. The man replied that when Ibokura had failed to plan the Christmas event, he and his partner had stepped in just to save it, yet Ibokura had not even thanked them. Ibokura responded that they had done it of their own accord, so he owed them no praise at all, and he calmly drank his tea. His two co-workers became extremely angry at his arrogance, with one saying that he had some nerve, while the other asked if he was mocking them. Ibokura said that he was not joking. Another co-worker told the two to just ignore Ibokura, saying that he lacked common decency to show gratitude, and that all he had was arrogance despite his work being sloppy. Another co-worker passing by said they should stay away from Ibokura because his incompetence might be contagious, which only irritated Ibokura. He became even more irritated when more co-workers spoke up, with some saying he should just admit it, others calling him a loser, and one calling him a salary leech. He was on the verge of tears from the humiliation, and in his mind he swore that he would never forgive them, even though he himself was at fault. After that, the scene returned to the present, where Ibokuro was thinking to himself that he would become a successful VTuber and rub it in his co-workers' faces. That was the reason he needed the chickens, and in his anger his grip on his bicycle tightened. He then continued riding through the city while searching for the chickens. Elsewhere, a man was running through the streets despite the heavy rain, and it was none other than Morio. He reached the dam and was shocked to see that it already had a hole and water was leaking out. He said that it was not good, because it could burst at any moment. He thought carefully for a moment. Then his face took on a determined look, as if he had decided to stop the dam from completely collapsing. After that, he poured his energy into transforming. He even shouted as his clothes gradually tore while his body grew larger. Before long, he became a giant, and each step he took caused rumbling vibrations. The scene then shifted to the emergency shelter, where the time was shown to be 8:28 in the morning. Inside were Elizabeth, Chicken Little, Misuzu, and the grandfather, who was lying down to rest. Misuzu asked her grandfather how he was feeling, and he said that he had finally calmed down a little. As the old man said this, Chicken Little was deep in thought and said that she hoped Keiji was safe because she was worried about him. Elizabeth also began thinking when she heard that, remembering how Keiji had said before separating from them that he would continue traveling on his own. In her thoughts, she wondered if Keiji really was traveling alone. At that moment, someone came running toward the emergency shelter and told everyone to be quiet and listen. He reported that they had received news from the state office. Because of 100 centimeters of rainfall the previous night, there were fears that the Kuromi Dam might collapse. The people were filled with shock and fear at the news, Misuzu included. Chicken Little asked Elizabeth what that meant, so Elizabeth explained that it meant the reservoir water would flood the town, which shocked Chicken Little. One man asked if the announcer was joking and how such a massive dam could break so easily. Another man wearing glasses and a sweater said that the news reminded him of something. He explained that when the dam was first built, there had been rumors that it was cheaply made and that its foundation was of low quality. He asked if that was true, while another man did not want to believe, and he cursed the general contractors. Someone else asked what they should do, and the announcer replied that the state office had told them to continue sheltering. A man with a thick mustache objected, saying that if all the water behind the dam burst out, the entire town would drown, including the evacuation shelter. A woman said that if that was the case, they needed to leave town immediately, but an elderly man argued that there was still a storm outside and the river had flooded, making it impossible to leave at that moment. The people then asked what they should do. While the people were talking, Elizabeth was doing something on her phone, and Chicken Little asked what she was doing. Elizabeth replied that she was looking up for directions to the dam. Chicken Little was shocked and asked what Elizabeth was planning to do. As Elizabeth put away her phone, she said that she might be able to find a way to stop the flooding from there. She then started to leave, but Chicken Little stopped her and told her to wait. Elizabeth looked at her, and Chicken Little said that she was coming too. The scene returned to Ibokura, who was still riding around the city on his bicycle while he filmed. He asked where the chickens were, when suddenly what he was looking for ran in front of him. It was Elizabeth, whom he recognized immediately, along with Chicken Little. Ibokura was puzzled because he did not see Keiji, but he said that there was no time to complain and that he needed to follow Elizabeth. At the same time, crowds of people were already leaving the town because the dam was about to collapse, causing traffic. Unlike them, Elizabeth ran straight toward the dam. She kept going despite the heavy rain and despite knowing that the dam was about to break. Ibokura cursed under his breath at how hard it was to follow Elizabeth and wondered where they were going. Elizabeth then said that she could see the dam, and she and Chicken Little were both shocked. They even asked what they were seeing, because a giant demon was holding back the dam from collapsing, and it was Morio. In Elizabeth's thoughts, she asked herself if a demon was really stopping the dam from breaking. Ibokura saw it too, and in his mind he thought that he finally understood that the dam was close to collapsing and that the demon was holding it back. As he thought this, he filmed everything he saw. He said that he had hit the jackpot and that the video would definitely go viral. He then had an idea and pulled out his tablet, saying that he would live stream that event. Back at the emergency shelter, Misuzu seemed to be looking for someone and wondered where Elizabeth and Chicken Little were. Then a man told everyone that a demon was holding up the dam, which he was watching on Ibokura's live stream, and it caught Misuzu's attention. Everyone was shocked by the news and could hardly believe it. Someone then asked the man if he had an HDMI cable and told him to connect it to the TV, which he said he did. In her thoughts, Misuzu wondered if demons were the monster-like creatures. When the live stream was shown on the TV, everyone was shocked and even impressed that a demon was holding back the dam's collapse. The people cheered for Morio to hang on, with some saying they were counting on him. Morio received all kinds of cheers from the people, but while others focused on him, Misuzu noticed something else. She saw Elizabeth and Chicken Little there and wondered what they were doing. After that, the scene returned to the dam, where the rumbling grew stronger as more cracks appeared. Ibokuro was delighted as his viewer count kept pouring in. In contrast, Morio was struggling to hold back the dam, and at that moment he noticed Elizabeth, Chicken Little, and Ibokuro. He asked what they were doing there and told them it was dangerous and that they should escape. Elizabeth asked if he was a demon and why he was doing this. He thought for a moment, before saying that he wanted to save everyone in the town. Elizabeth and Chicken Little were shocked to hear that, and Elizabeth still could not believe his answer. Then another crack appeared in the dam, and water burst out under immense pressure, shocking Morio. This was followed by an even louder rumbling, causing Morio to shout as it became harder to hold it back. He then remembered Keiji's words telling him to just keep living, because it would not be long before he found his purpose. At that moment, Morio told Keiji that he had found his purpose. He had always wanted to be useful, and he realized it then. He then told Keiji in his thoughts that he could finally hold his head high, because saving people was the reason he had been born. Even though he was already struggling, he said that he would hold up the dam even if it cost him his life. He also told Elizabeth that they needed to leave immediately. Chicken Little began to cry at what Morio was doing and how kind he was, while Elizabeth thought to herself that she had read about this online. There really were demons like Morio. At that moment, she remembered saying that she would kill all demons, and she wondered if she had been wrong. Then Chicken Little pointed at something, which shocked Elizabeth. It was Ibokuro filming from a distance, making Elizabeth wonder what he was doing there. At the same time, Ibokuro watched Morio closely, as if something was on his mind. In his thoughts, he wondered what was with Morio and why he was giving everything he had to help people. Morio was even willing to give his life for it, which made him question why. He knew he himself could never do that. In a flashback, he was shown talking to his mother and told her that he wanted to become a lawyer, which made her ask why. He said he wanted to help those in need, so he studied hard to achieve his dream. However, he failed his college entrance exam and never became a lawyer. He even blamed his mother, and he knew deep down that he blamed others for his problems, even though he knew himself that he was the reason he failed. He just did not want to admit it. Back in the present, he was shocked when Elizabeth ran up to him and asked what he was doing and told him to get away, but all he heard were the clucks of a chicken. On top of that, his footing slipped, cracks formed beneath him, and he trembled in fear. The ground he was standing on completely gave way, and his eyes widened in shock as he began to fall to his doom. Tears welled up at that moment, and Elizabeth and Chicken Little were shocked to see him drop. Morio also saw him, and in his thoughts he told his mother that he did not want to die, repeating it again and again. On the third time he cried out, a chicken entered the scene and jumped, pushing him back onto the lower walkway of the dam. He landed safely on the walkway, while the chicken jumped up toward Elizabeth. When that chicken landed on top of the dam, Elizabeth, Chicken Little, and Morio were all stunned because it was none other than Keiji. Chicken Little could not believe that Keiji was there, while in Elizabeth's thoughts, she said that she thought he had already left. Meanwhile, Ibokuro had just recovered from his fall, and in his thoughts, he asked himself whether the rooster had saved him. At the same time, Morio called out to Keiji and asked him if he was also worried about the dam. Keiji indirectly answered yes, and said that he did not expect Morio to be the one stopping the destruction of the dam. Morio then told Keiji to look at him because he was protecting everyone. It turned out that he had a reason to live after all, and Keiji said that was true, because without Morio, many people would have already died, so he was a hero. Morio was shocked at being called a hero by Keiji and could hardly believe it. He said that such kind words were wasted on him and that he only wanted to be useful. Keiji replied that that was just how Morio was, when he was suddenly startled by a loud rumbling. Another hole formed in the dam, and a large amount of water burst out from it, shocking Morio. The same was true for Keiji, Chicken Little, and Elizabeth, who were almost frozen in shock. From below, Ibokura also saw the number of holes in the dam gradually increasing, so he immediately ran toward the stairway to get back up. Before long, the pressure of the water bursting from one of the holes became even stronger, making it even harder for Morio, who said that he was already at his limit. He tried to block that hole, but he was suddenly blown away as the dam finally exploded and collapsed. All of the water poured down onto him, burying him, which made Keiji, Elizabeth, and Chicken Little worry about him. After that, the water rapidly surged downward toward the town, and Keiji felt sorrow for his friend Morio. At that moment, another strong rumbling occurred, making Elizabeth uneasy as Keiji said that it was bad. He started running while telling Elizabeth where to go, because behind them, that part of the dam was also breaking apart. Keiji told Elizabeth and Chicken Little to head to a safe place, and Elizabeth asked him what he would do. He replied that he would stop the flood, which shocked Elizabeth and Chicken Little. At the same time, Ibokura had almost finished climbing the stairs, and there, he saw the water pouring out from the broken part of the dam. He could hardly believe that it had really collapsed, yet he continued filming. At the emergency shelter, the people heard his comment from the livestream saying that the dam had indeed collapsed, and one man said that it could not be happening. This was followed by various comments from people who were terrified because they knew that they, in their town, would drown from the massive amount of water pouring out. One child even told his father that he was scared, while Misuzu fell into thought and asked herself whether they were all going to die. Back at the dam, Ibokura saw Keiji and the others running away, and he asked himself if they were fleeing, something he did not believe was their intention. In his thoughts, he said that he could not imagine the chickens just ignoring this. He then asked if they had a plan and said that he needed to follow them. At the same time, Morio returned to his normal size and began sinking into the water. At that moment, he reflected and said in his mind that he had done his best and hoped that he had been useful to somebody. He also thanked Keiji because he had gained more confidence in himself because of him. He added that he was very happy to have met him and thanked him again. He said that he was truly happy to have lived, repeating it over and over until he slowly lost consciousness. Back to Keiji, he was running at incredible speed, as if racing against the raging flood. Because of his speed, he was already outrunning it, and at that moment, he thought of Morio. He said that he would carry the feelings that Morio had staked his life on. Then he jumped onto a rock along the river where the raging flood would pass, which shocked Elizabeth. From that rock, Keiji clearly saw the flood, accompanied by loud rumblings as it collided with rocks. Keiji took in a deep breath and unleashed a powerful cock-a-doodle-doo attack at the rock wall beside the river. The rocks exploded from the impact, which surprised Elizabeth. Because of what Keiji did, the rocks fell into the river, and Elizabeth realized and said that Keiji was dropping boulders into the river and that she understood his plan. The exhausted Ibokura also saw this and said that he now knew that Keiji really did have a plan. Because he continued filming, the people at the evacuation shelter were able to watch what Keiji was doing. One man said that he had seen him on YouTube, while another said that he had also seen him, the rooster who defeated a demon. Someone asked if he was trying to stop the water from the dam. The man with glasses replied that that was probably what Keiji was doing, that he was trying to save them. Because of that, the people began cheering for Keiji, starting to place their hopes on him, while Misuzu wondered in her mind whether he was Elizabeth's friend. Back in the flood-stopping mission, Elizabeth and Chicken Little were shocked to see that Keiji had created a wall from boulders to block the flood. As the flood drew closer, Elizabeth said that she hoped it would hold, while Keiji was completely exhausted. When the flood hit the wall he had made, the boulder wall immediately shattered, greatly shocking him, as well as Elizabeth and Chicken Little. The flood surged toward the town once again, frightening the people anew. Meanwhile, Keiji sprang back into action, running down the river again to outrun the flood once more. Elizabeth followed him, and at the very back was Ibokura, biking alongside the flood. In Keiji's thoughts, he said that a small wall like the one he made would not be enough, so he needed a much stronger wall. Because of that, he thought of something sturdier he could use as a barrier, and to his surprise, he spotted a rock mountain in the distance. It gave him an idea, so he sped up and ran toward that rock mountain. Elizabeth was puzzled by how far Keiji went, and to her shock, she saw that he was destroying something again using his cock-a-doodle-doo attack. He repeatedly struck the rock mountain, while Chicken Little asked if Keiji was making another wall and said that it would not work. She added that they were already very close to the town, and they needed to stop the water or it would flood the entire town. As Chicken Little spoke, Elizabeth watched Keiji, and she suddenly had a realization. She mentioned the boulder that Keiji was focusing his attacks on, confusing Chicken Little, who asked what she meant. Elizabeth explained that Keiji was going to drop the massive boulder into the river to block the flow of water. A boulder like that could withstand the powerful current, and Chicken Little said that it was amazing and called Keiji a genius. Ibokura thought the same thing, of course while continuing to film. At the same time, Elizabeth wondered if the boulder was too big and whether Keiji could do it in time. She grew worried as the flood rapidly approached them, while Keiji was only halfway through bringing the boulder down. Because of the fast-moving water, Elizabeth and Chicken Little told Keiji to hurry because the water was already there. However, the water was not Keiji's only problem, because he was also being hit by small rocks flying off from the boulder he was destroying. Among those small rocks was a slightly larger one that struck him directly in the stomach, shocking him. Elizabeth and Chicken Little worried for Keiji, who still managed to stand after that. He was gasping for breath and his body was trembling, and he cursed because of what happened. Then he took an air again and unleashed another cock-a-doodle-doo at the boulder. Elizabeth was shocked that Keiji continued even while being struck by flying rocks, while Chicken Little cheered him on. As Ibokura watched, he also cheered for Keiji, as did the people at the evacuation shelter, including Misuzu, who was praying. Keiji kept going even though he was already covered in bruises from the rocks hitting him, and Elizabeth thought of something. She said in her mind that Keiji had been the same way on the day they met, when he saved them without needing a reason. Keiji seemed like the kind of man who could not stop himself from saving those in need. Elizabeth began to tear up as she watched Keiji, and she said that she had finally realized that she loved him. Meanwhile, Keiji was close to bringing the boulder down, and it was slowly falling. Before long, it completely fell, perfectly timed with the arrival of the flood. Elizabeth and Chicken Little were shocked that Keiji managed to bring down such an enormous boulder, which he waited to fall into the river to block the flood. Time seemed to slow as they waited to see if the boulder would properly block the flood. However, unfortunately, the boulder got stuck because the river was too narrow, greatly shocking Keiji, as well as Elizabeth and Chicken Little. Keiji's gaze sharpened, and he jumped down into the river, saying that he was not finished yet. He aimed at the part of the boulder that was stuck, and took an extremely deep breath. However, the flood reached him, and he was submerged by it. Fear filled the faces of Elizabeth and Chicken Little, as well as Ibokura, the people at the evacuation shelter, and Misuzu. The water flowed freely toward the town with nothing stopping it, while Chicken Little was nearly in tears from worrying about Keiji. At the same time, Elizabeth saw something in the water, and the surface of the water began to change, shocking Chicken Little, Misuzu, and Ibokura. This was because Keiji unleashed a cock-a-doodle-doo attack from beneath the water, forcing the water apart. Everyone was stunned by this, as Keiji resembled Moses, parting the waters using nothing but his cock-a-doodle-doo attack. It was not an ordinary cock-a-doodle-doo, but a super cock-a-doodle-doo. As a result, the stuck portion of the boulder shattered, allowing it to fall into the river. It created a massive splash due to its size and weight, but it did not stop all of the water. Some water still overflowed because of the amount that had built up from the dam, and a small portion even spilled onto the road. The result of Keiji's actions was a new waterfall in that river, while Elizabeth and Chicken Little stood frozen in shock. They could hardly believe that Keiji had managed to save the town by stopping the raging flood from the dam. Keiji was completely exhausted from saving the town. And he said that those contractors had some nerve building such a terrible dam, commenting that it truly made his crown curl. After saying that, his body finally gave out, and he collapsed because he was so exhausted from repeatedly using his cock-a-doodle-doo. He was gasping for breath at that moment, and in his thoughts, he called out to Morio and told him that they had managed to save the town from completely sinking into the flood. At the emergency shelter, everyone's mouths were hanging open in shock, and the man with glasses said that Keiji's plan had worked. After that, they all shouted in joy because they were safe from drowning, something Keiji had managed to stop. A young couple even hugged each other, and an elderly woman said thanks to God, to Buddha, and to Keiji. At the same time, a kid told his father that the chickens were so cool. Outside, where there were many people, they were also celebrating. While they were doing that, the two boys who had chased Keiji the other day looked at each other, and one of them said it was a good thing they let Keiji get away, which his friend agreed with. At the same time, Misuzu was deep in thought, and in her mind, she thanked Elizabeth, Chicken Little, and Keiji, calling him Mr. White Rooster. She said that she promised she would become a doctor, so that someday she could help people like Keiji. She also wished the three of them safe travels. After that, it cut back to where Keiji was, and Elizabeth and Chicken Little hurried down to him. They found Keiji sprawled out there, and Chicken Little immediately ran to him in tears while calling out his name. She told him he had done well and that she loved him, repeatedly kissing him on the cheek. Elizabeth was completely stunned when she saw that, and she asked Chicken Little if all that kissing still was enough. Chicken Little asked what was wrong and whether Elizabeth did not want her kissing her husband. Elizabeth grew a bit embarrassed when she heard that and told Chicken Little to stop messing around. Chicken Little then shot her a sharp look, which made Elizabeth wonder, and Chicken Little asked her if she is falling in love with Keiji. Elizabeth blushed at that, and Chicken Little asked her again. Elizabeth told her not to be ridiculous, and in her mind, she wondered why Chicken Little was so perceptive. Chicken Little asked why Elizabeth was turning so red if the question was not true, and Elizabeth just told her that she was only imagining things. Chicken Little called her a liar, but Elizabeth said she was not lying, while Keiji wanted to tell them to stop, yet he could not because he was too exhausted. From not too far away, Ibokura said that the flood had been intense, and it seemed like he was talking to someone, telling that person that he was fine. It turned out he was talking to his mother on the phone, and he told her that he had decided to continue traveling for a while. His mother asked him about ViewTube, and he replied that he had realized it was not his true calling. His mother asked if he was sure, and he told her he was. He said he wanted to face his insecurities head-on, and he wanted to become a better man, thinking of Keiji as his example. He told his mother he would be fine, and that he could not rely on her forever. He said he would call her again and told her to take care. After that, in his thoughts, he told Keiji that someday he would become someone who could protect people just like him. Aside from Keiji, he also thought of Morio, and he said that because of the two of them, he could see clearly now, so he thanked them. Back to the chickens, Elizabeth spoke to Keiji, and she said that she thought Keiji only cared about revenge for Sarah, so she asked him how that ended up turning into saving people. Keiji thought about it, and it was revealed that an hour earlier, Keiji had been staying under a waiting shed while letting the rain ease up. He felt that something was off at that moment, and then he happened to see a family evacuating, with the father telling his family to hurry because the dam was going to break, which alarmed Keiji. He was shocked when he heard that and asked himself if that meant the town would be flooded. He immediately thought of Elizabeth and Chicken Little, and he knew he would not be able to find the two of them in time. So he decided that if that was the case, then he had to stop the dam and acted right away. Back in the present, Keiji told Elizabeth that he had just been passing through, and he turned his back. In Elizabeth's thoughts, she called him a liar. Then all three of them looked at the waterfall created by what Keiji had done, who thought about Morio, who had traded his life to save people. Chicken Little, already teary-eyed, said that Morio was a kind demon, while Elizabeth said she had no idea demons like Morio existed. She even added that she had once said she wanted to kill all demons, but she was taking that back now. At the same time, Keiji remembered the past, to the times he spent with Morio. He remembered how they gambled, Morio's shock at the money he won from gambling, their conversations, and their drinking session. He even thought that the sake the two of them drank had been divine, and he silently said goodbye to his close friend. Then the scene shifted to the riverbank, where a body was lying there. It was none other than Morio, and his body seemed to have changed color. At that moment, his hand began to move, covered in cracks, and he gradually started waking up. When he got up, he was shocked and overjoyed that he was still alive, and he could not believe it. He laughed at how tough his body was and shouted at the top of his lungs that he was still alive. Then he noticed the water, and was stunned to see that the flooding had stopped. He did not know what to say, and he immediately remembered Keiji. He ran to find him while saying that he had known Keiji was special ever since he met him. He also called Keiji an incredible man, and the scene shifted to Keiji, Elizabeth, and Chicken Little running back toward town. At that moment, someone called out to the three of them, and Keiji was shocked to hear someone calling them. From a distance, Morio was there, waving and calling Keiji's name. Keiji was stunned to recognize Morio as the one calling them, and Elizabeth and Chicken Little were shocked too, saying that it was Morio, the kind demon. Keiji could hardly believe Morio was still alive, who asked him if he was the one who stopped the flood, and he thanked him. Morio added that the next time Keiji visited, he would treat him to fresh sea urchin. Keiji was happy to hear that, and he also requested for more sake. Chicken Little said goodbye, and so did Keiji, waving with his wing. The three of them left after that, leaving Morio alone by the cliffside. He teared up a little as the chickens left, and when he turned around, a tall woman with long hair, wearing a suit, was standing there. She stared at him sharply, as he asked her who she was while he was sweating so hard. She raised one finger at him, as if telling him to stop. Slowly, the woman's finger became sharp, and she stabbed it into the middle of his forehead. Because of that, Morio lost his life, and his body collapsed right there at the edge of the cliff. In the next scene, we move to the past, back when Keiji was still together with his sister, Sarah. They were by a pond, watching the koi fish. Because the garden where they lived was extremely large, the owner told them not to wander too far. After that, Sarah suggested that they play hide and seek, and Keiji asked her if she was serious. Sarah said that it would be fun, so even though Keiji did not want to, he agreed. After that, Sarah hid, and Keiji asked if she was ready, to which she replied that she was ready. Keiji began walking around to look for Sarah, and behind a rock, he spotted her tail. He thought to himself that Sarah was way too easy to find, and he slowly approached her from behind. When he got close enough, he shouted loudly to scare her, which made Sarah scream in fear and accidentally unleash her fire powers at Keiji, shocking him. As a result, Keiji was set on fire, which terrified Sarah, while Keiji immediately ran away and jumped into the pond to put out the flames. He panicked in the water because he could not swim, and his owner saw him almost drowning. The owner helped him, and Sarah witnessed everything, tearfully asking if he was okay. In the next scene, Keiji's entire body was wrapped in bandages due to the burns, while Elizabeth tearfully apologized to him. He replied that the burns were not serious, so Sarah should not worry, and he added that it was also his fault. Sarah asked if she was sick and why she could release fire from her body. Keiji fell into thought and remembered the time when Kokichi took Sarah hostage, which caused her fire powers to activate for the first time. While crying, Sarah asked what was happening to her and hugged Keiji, saying that she was scared. Keiji carefully thought about what to say and hugged Sarah tightly. Then he told her that no matter what happened, he would protect her, so she should not worry. In the following scene, time advanced to when the mansion where Keiji lived was under attack, burning down in flames, and he was easily flicked away by a demon, causing him to slam into a rock. That was when the demon took Sarah, who repeatedly screamed Keiji's name, while he could do nothing but watch. He watched as his sister called out to him while the demon prepared to devour her. Then the scene shifted to a void-like space, where there was a chicken with blood dripping from her body. She called out to Keiji, and he could not believe that it was Sarah. She asked him why he did not save her when he said that he would protect her. At that moment, Keiji woke up from his nightmare, breathing heavily, while Chicken Little and Elizabeth were sleeping soundly. He was frustrated because it was the same dream again, and he lay there thinking under the quiet night. The next morning, when the bright sun rose, Keiji wandered around the park. Before long, he began digging at a spot, even using his beak to properly shape it, before going back to his feet to dig again. When he was satisfied with the depth of the hole, he sat down in it and flapped his wings, causing small particles to fly off his body. When he was done, he finally breathed properly and relaxed, enjoying his very peaceful and quiet time alone. However, that moment was interrupted when Chicken Little arrived and said that she also wanted to play in the sand. She jumped into her own small hole and started playing there. But Elizabeth told her that Keiji was not playing, he was taking a sand bath, which confused her. Elizabeth explained that chickens took sand baths to remove bugs and dead feathers from their bodies. It was similar to how humans bathe to stay clean, which amazed Chicken Little. She added that she personally preferred a more sophisticated method, and as she said that, she pulled something out of her bag. She proudly showed it to Chicken Little and KG, and it was a can of bug spray. She said it was an elegant solution for an elegant woman and sprayed it on herself. Then someone called out to them to call for their attention, and it was two pigeons. One of them asked if they were the chickens who fought demons. Elizabeth asked what made them say that, to which one of the pigeons shouted in excitement that he knew it, while the other said he couldn't believe it. The paler pigeon explained that they had seen KG on people's smartphones and that he was famous even among pigeons. The darker pigeon said that he could not believe he was seeing the real KG and that he was cool. KG smiled and casually replied with, "If you say so," though in his mind he thought it was kind of nice. Then the darker pigeon whispered to his companion, asking if they should ask KG, which shocked the other. The paler pigeon said that KG would probably refuse, but the darker one insisted that it is worth a try. In the middle of all that, KG wondered what they were talking about. The paler pigeon then asked if KG would be interested in joining them for a group date, which shocked Elizabeth. She asked the pigeons if they meant one of those blind date meetups. One of them replied yes, saying that it was very popular in pigeon culture. Elizabeth could not believe it was popular, since she had no idea. The paler pigeon explained that their third companion had to take a last-minute carrier pigeon job and suddenly canceled, so he asked KG if he would be interested in joining them as a replacement. KG was surprised to be invited and replied that, honestly, he was not interested in pigeons. Even so, the paler pigeon begged him to come along. With KG there would be so much to talk about, and the darker pigeon added that he was sure the female pigeons would love to hear KG's stories, so he asked him to join them for a bit. Elizabeth told KG that it sounded fun and that he should check it out. KG thought about it and said that if they were all insisting, he would go, which made the pigeons thank him. When they arrived at the group date location, the women sat side by side facing the men, while Chicken Little and Elizabeth watched from a distance. The pigeon woman on the far right asked why there was a chicken there. The one in the middle said it was a mood killer, while the one on the left added that the group date seemed like a miss. KG became annoyed and told the two male pigeons that this was not what they had promised. The paler male immediately apologized, while the darker one asked the women if they did not recognize KG. He said that KG was the famous rooster who fought demons. The women all replied at once that they did not know KG. Then the one on the right said she heard that chickens could not fly and that it was lame. The one in the middle said that chickens just said cock-a-doodle-doo, while the one on the left asked what was hanging from KG's chin, calling it disgusting. KG grew even more irritated after hearing all that, and Chicken Little stepped into the scene, calling the pigeon women skanks and telling them to stop teasing KG. To her surprise, Elizabeth suddenly grabbed her and told her to calm down a bit. Then she spoke to KG, while the pigeon women asked if Chicken Little was KG's child. Elizabeth said that she could no longer listen to the pigeon slander, and Chicken Little said that she was getting angry too. As for KG, he said his comb began to curl, but Elizabeth told him not to hurt anyone. It was a group date, and the battle was a social one. He needed to show the pigeon women the true beauty of chickens by wooing them on that date, and that was how they would win. KG thought about it, and then said that he understood that the battle rested on his shoulders. He told them to leave it to him, and with his pride as a chicken, he would win that battle, or rather, that date. He said he would use his undeniable appeal and make the pigeon women fall for him. Elizabeth was confused when she heard that, while Chicken Little jumped repeatedly, flapping her wings and cheering for KG. In Elizabeth's mind, she felt that something was off and wondered if KG would really be okay. When KG returned to the group date, the paler male pigeon said they should start with introductions. He introduced himself as Ken, while his companion introduced himself as Masa and asked the women how was it going. The pigeon woman on the right introduced herself as Anne, the one in the middle as Seiko, and the one on the left as Lola. After that, KG stood on the table and, in an extremely grand manner with dramatic posing, introduced himself and showed off his massive muscles. He told the women not to forget it, and the men were greatly impressed, including Chicken Little. In contrast, the women were not impressed at all, and said it was lame. Seiko said it was cringe, and Lola said it was gross, while in Elizabeth's mind, she thought that she should have seen this coming. A moment later, Anne seemed impressed when Ken talked about pigeon racing, saying that pigeons had an instinctual sense of direction, allowing him to fly 100 kilometers away and still return home. Elizabeth whispered to Keiji that this was his chance, so Keiji followed. He said that chickens were amazing too, because they were part of the zodiac, and asked what that was, and Seiko said she did not know either. Keiji felt embarrassed, and Elizabeth whispered for him to say something else. Because of that, he said that they were early birds, but Elizabeth told him not to say that. He then said that they had big crowns, but that still did not get Elizabeth's approval. Finally, he said that the 28th of every month was Chicken Day. Even then, Elizabeth did not accept it and told him to stop fooling around, asking if he was really calling himself a rooster. That pushed Keiji over the edge, and he kicked the table, saying that was enough. Because of that, the table was broken and the food was scattered, while the pigeon women trembled in fear. Keiji told them that he did not care what they thought of chickens because he had pride in himself, and that was all that mattered. He turned his back after saying that, and added that he would walk the path he chose, because that was all he could do. The pigeon women were stunned by his words, and all at once they said cool while blushing, which shocked both Keiji and Elizabeth. Seiko said she had never seen such a manly bird. Lola said she was looking for a real man, and then said Keiji was kind of hot. In Keiji's mind, he thought that he really did not understand what was happening, because he believed he had struck out, but it seemed like he had hit a home run. At that moment, the pigeon women all asked him out or proposed marriage at the same time, while Chicken Little told them not to touch Keiji. At the same time, Elizabeth was deep in thought, wondering what was going on. She watched as the women begged Keiji to choose them, and Keiji agreed. That seemed to pull a trigger in her, and she suddenly said that Keiji was a man whore. Keiji replied that Elizabeth had sold him out, while she pretended like she did nothing. Because of that, the women's attitudes changed, and they called Keiji trash, scum, and the worst as they left. Ken and Masa tried to comfort Keiji, telling him that he would get them next time, and then left as well, flying away. Only the 3 chickens remained, and it was getting dark. They went to a park bench, where Elizabeth bowed to Keiji and apologized, saying she did not know what came over her. Keiji replied that she should not worry about it, since they were just pigeons anyway. Elizabeth asked herself what was happening to her, while Chicken Little told her that she would not forgive her next time. At the same time, Chicken Little walked closer, until her foot slipped off the edge of the bench, and she started to fall. Fortunately, a woman caught her. When Elizabeth and Keiji looked at the woman, they saw a tall woman with long hair wearing a suit. She placed Chicken Little back on the bench, and it was revealed that she was the same woman who killed Morio. She told Keiji and Elizabeth to make sure to keep Chicken Little safe next time. After that, she left, while Keiji fell into thought. In the following scene, the setting shifted to what looked like an abandoned warehouse, where blood was dripping from above. That blood was coming from a male rooster who had been wounded in the neck, with shaggy hair covering his face. In front of him were several demons, and it was revealed that he was facing a total of 4 demons. One demon had a massive body with 6 arms, 2 ending in scorpion claws and 4 with regular hands, along with a scorpion stinger. There were also 2 demons with normal human bodies whose only abnormality was their arms. Last but not least, there was a demon with an enormous head and an octopus-like body. One demon, whose arm was a machine gun, laughed loudly, while another demon with a human-like body appeared to be holding another rooster hostage. That demon asked what the bleeding rooster would do now. The hostage rooster spoke up and told the rooster whose face was hidden by hair to run, calling him Keisuke. Keisuke looked irritated upon hearing that, but at the same time he did exactly as said, which shocked the demons. The demon with the machine gun arm ordered the 2 large demons to chase after Keisuke, but the demon holding the hostage rooster told them not to bother. Keisuke would come back anyway, since they still had a hostage. The scene then returned to Keisuke, who was already running through the forest. In his thoughts, he said that he would come back for his father, the rooster who had been held hostage earlier, so he told him to hold on. After that, the scene shifted to another place, at the riverside, where someone was cooking delicious food. It turned out to be Elizabeth, and Chicken Little asked her what she was doing. She replied that she was making lunch. Chicken Little said that she had already seen the fish Elizabeth was cooking, since it was the same kind of fish as the tattoo on her pop's back. Elizabeth replied that it was a carp, and Keiji asked if she had gone fishing. Elizabeth answered that not quite, explaining that she had simply sent an electrical current into a pond. She asked if wasn't that easy, since the dead fish would just float up, and Keiji called it an interesting fishing method. Elizabeth then said that the final step of her cooking was seasoning the fish with salt and pepper. She then presented the dish to everyone and said that it was white fish sautéed with a two-tone vegetable sauce, topped with a dandelion garnish. Chicken Little said it looked delicious, while Keiji asked if it was really edible. Elizabeth told Keiji not to be rude, since cooking was one of her many talents. Keiji sniffed the dish and wondered how good it might taste. He took a bite, and after swallowing, he was overwhelmed by how delicious it was, calling it exquisite. He said that the vegetable sauce perfectly complemented the carp while adding body to the flavor. It was like biting into a grasshopper and a frog at the same time, a flavorful assault on his taste buds. While Keiji was still savoring the taste, Elizabeth asked if she was a genius and whether they should start eating. However, Keiji suddenly shouted for them to wait. He stared at the portions Elizabeth had served, so she wondered what he was doing, which made her look as well. After examining the plates closely, Keiji said that his portion was the smallest. Elizabeth was surprised and said they were all the same size, but Keiji insisted that one was just a little smaller. Elizabeth asked so what, then said that the smaller one is Keiji's, and that he should just be grateful she was sharing with them at all. Keiji said she should give him another half, and that would make him thankful, while trying to take half of Elizabeth's portion. She told him not to touch it and held him back with her foot. Elizabeth refused to give in, while Chicken Little called out to Keiji. She said that if he was hungry, he could eat her portion instead. Keiji immediately thanked her, took her portion, and swallowed it. Elizabeth was shocked by what she saw, and kicked Keiji, scolding him that Chicken Little was just a child and calling him a pig. In the middle of all that, Chicken Little quietly watched, as if she was thinking about something. A little later, after they finished eating, Elizabeth was using her phone when Keiji asked if she had any information about the white demon. She replied that she did not yet. There had been no information since the last time it appeared, and she had not found any leads since. Keiji looked like he was thinking about something with anger on his face, while Elizabeth added that the only thing they could do for now was go to where the white demon had last been seen, since they might find a clue there. She said they still had nearly 250 kilometers to travel, and as she said that, she noticed something. She looked around in confusion and asked where Chicken Little had gone. After that, the scene shifted to a staircase, where someone was shocked that only one bug had been caught. They were lizards, and the largest one asked the smallest one if hadn't they told him to catch 10. Another one asked if the smallest one was deaf. The smallest lizard replied that 10 was impossible and begged them to leave him alone. The largest lizard, with a scar on his face, then asked if the smallest one could not even follow simple instructions, and said that now he was going to get hurt, which frightened him. The scar-faced lizard was about to bite the smallest one while telling him to die, but suddenly someone shouted for him to stop. To the shock of Scarface, he saw that it was Chicken Little. She descended to where they were and landed in an extremely flashy pose. She asked the smallest lizard if he was hurt, and he replied that he was not. Scarface then asked who Chicken Little was, and she mockingly asked who she was. She declared that she was a dutiful chick, so evildoers should beware, and as she said that, she showed the writing on her back that read duty. In her thoughts, she said that it was the perfect entrance. Scarface then asked if she wanted to fight, saying that he would gladly accept. After that, he ordered his companions to attack Chicken Little, and they all rushed her at once. They bit her in various parts of her body, but it had no effect. With a single kick, Chicken Little sent the 3 attacking lizards flying and beat them without any difficulty. The lizards could do nothing to her, and she told them that now they would think twice before bullying others. The largest lizard replied that they were not finished yet, so Chicken Little mockingly asked if they wanted to be beaten more and said they could kiss her butt. Scarface could not accept what Chicken Little had done to them and called it unforgivable. As he began transforming into a demon, he told her that he would show her just how unforgivable it was. Something emerged from his back, and Chicken Little and the smallest lizard were shocked to see him transform. The 3 lizards ran away, while Chicken Little began trembling in fear. After that, the demon lizard chased after Chicken Little. His demon form was a giant with many sharp teeth and 6 eyes. Chicken Little could do nothing but run and scream tweet. Because of the demon lizard's massive size, every step he took caused a loud crash, and he told Chicken Little to come back to him. but she replied no way. The demon lizard then tried to use his extremely long tongue, which had its own mouth, to bite Chicken Little, who was terrified. She dodged each of the demon lizard's tongue attacks, nearly crying. Unfortunately, she tripped over a small stone, tumbled forward, and slammed into a wall. She was then cornered by the demon lizard's drooling tongue and began shaking in fear. With nothing else she could do, she screamed "Tweet" as it was about to bite her, but Keiji entered the scene and kicked the tongue, while Elizabeth electrocuted the demon's entire body. The demon collapsed from the attack, and Elizabeth and Keiji immediately rushed to Chicken Little. Elizabeth asked if she was hurt, but she did not answer. She only had a sad look on her face as she stood up and walked away, even as Elizabeth tried to stop her. Both Elizabeth and Keiji wondered why Chicken Little was distancing herself, while people behind them recorded everything on video. In the following scene, the sun was close to setting, and Chicken Little was quietly reflecting by the riverbank. Sadly, she asked herself why she was so weak and why she could not be like Elizabeth. She said that she wanted to be useful like Keiji, but she always needed to be saved. She then remembered giving her portion of food to Keiji and said that it was the only thing she could offer. She called herself useless and said that she was nothing more than dead weight. As she continued reflecting, she mentioned that she did not want to be a burden to Keiji and that he doesn't need her slowing him down. Because of those thoughts, Chicken Little began to cry and wondered if her time with Keiji was coming to an end. While that was happening, Elizabeth and Keiji simply watched Chicken Little, and Keiji asked Elizabeth if she was hungry or something. Elizabeth replied that it looked like something was weighing on Chicken Little's mind, and she herself wondered what it was. She then asked Keiji if he had noticed it, which confused him. Elizabeth explained that they had been with Chicken Little for quite some time now, yet she had not grown at all in size, and asked if that was not strange. Keiji thought about it, and then mentioned that he had noticed it too, surprised that Elizabeth had realized it as well. At that moment, another rooster approached them, causing Keiji to glare at him. It was none other than Keisuke, whose body was trembling. Keiji asked who he was, and Keisuke replied that he had finally found him, calling him his brother. He then collapsed onto the ground, which shocked Elizabeth, as she asked if he was all right. Keiji, meanwhile, was in shock, asking himself what Keisuke had just said, because he could not believe that he had been called brother. In the following scene, someone was counting and had already reached 311, and that was Keiji, who was counting the number of squats he had done. Because he had repeated it so many times, he was drenched in sweat, and it was revealed that he was even carrying a large rock while doing it. As he trained, Chicken Little watched him, with a sad look on her face. In her thoughts, she wondered that if she left, would Keiji and Elizabeth even notice? She then remembered what her pops had told her, that she needed to eat so she could grow and become stronger, and she said that she missed him. Under the bridge, Keisuke was resting, while Elizabeth watched over him. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Elizabeth, which he did not pay much attention to at first, but once he fully came to his senses, he suddenly sat up in surprise. Elizabeth stood as well, saying that Keisuke was finally awake, while he just stared at her, unable to speak. He found Elizabeth incredibly beautiful, and she commented that he looked like he was doing better, which was a good thing. His heart began pounding loud because of that, and he suddenly shouted, prompting Elizabeth to tell him to be careful since his wounds had not fully healed yet. In his thoughts, he realized that he had fainted, and he stuttered as he asked Elizabeth if she was the one who nursed him back to health. Elizabeth replied that she did not really do much, that she had only stayed by his side and made sure he was all right. Keisuke was shocked that Elizabeth had stayed by his side, and thanked her repeatedly for her hospitality, bowing again and again. He added that he would never forget her kindness. At that moment, Elizabeth wondered to herself if Keisuke was not used to talking to women, and she suddenly grinned as if she were planning something mischievous. She then hugged Keisuke and told him that he needed to rest, calling him Han while making cute eyes at him. Keisuke was extremely flustered, his heart pounding even harder. He said that he needed to leave, but Elizabeth told him to stay and rest a bit longer, while inwardly calling him a funny man. After that, Keiji suddenly kicked Keisuke, making him cough from the impact. He glared at the recovering Rooster, who once again called him brother, prompting him to ask what his problem was. First he called him brother, Then he was unconscious for 2 days, and now that he was awake, he was horny. Elizabeth felt sorry for Keisuke, who told Keiji that it was not like that, but Keiji told him to be quiet. He said that he did not have a brother and asked Keisuke who he was. Keisuke thought for a moment before introducing himself and saying that he was Keiji's half-brother. Keiji was shocked by that, and so were Elizabeth and Chicken Little. He asked how he was supposed to know that Keisuke was telling the truth and whether he had any proof. Keisuke thought again before saying that they had met once when they were children, which shocked Keiji even more. He did not know what to say after hearing that, and stared closely at Keisuke. After a few moments of staring at his face, he suddenly had a realization that completely stunned him. The scene shifted to the past, where a chicken family was playing in a beautiful grassland. A young male chick happily chased a butterfly, while the father gave something to the mother, whom he called Sari. Sari was surprised by what her husband gave her, a floral crown, and she asked if he had made it for her. She put it on and asked if her husband liked it, and he replied that it was not bad. She thanked him, and then their child covered her eyes and asked her to guess who it was. Sari said she did not know, which delighted the young male chick, who was praised by his father and called Keiji. Keiji got upset that his father gave him away so easily, and the whole family laughed together. Keiji hugged his father and thought to himself that he loved him. After that, the scene moved to the mansion where they lived. Keiji told his mother that he was going for a walk, and she reminded him to be careful of stray cats. While walking around, he heard his father's voice telling someone to jump on his back. He looked toward where the voice was coming from, and was shocked to see his father playing with a young Keisuke, while Keisuke's mother watched them. Keiji could not believe what he was seeing, and at that moment, Keisuke noticed him, so he quickly hid behind a bush. He wondered who that young chick was and why he was with his father. Then he heard someone calling out to him and was startled. He saw that it was Keisuke, who asked if he was from the neighborhood and if he wanted to play. Keiji was unable to respond and just stood frozen before running away, while Keisuke tried to tell him to wait. Back in the present, Keiji said that Keisuke was the child from the past. Keisuke replied that he did not realize they were brothers until much later. Keiji could not respond, and Keisuke called him brother again, saying that he needed to ask him for a favor. He explained that their father was being held hostage by demons and that he needed his help to rescue him. Keiji and Elizabeth were shocked to hear that, and Keisuke added that their father had told him that Keiji was traveling around fighting demons, which made him wonder how their father knew that. Keisuke said that their enemies were powerful and that he needed Keiji's help. Keiji still did not respond, and Keisuke added that he knew it was sudden, but he had to save their father no matter what, so he begged Keiji to lend him his strength. Keiji thought carefully before saying that he refused. Keisuke was shocked by that, as were Elizabeth and Chicken Little. Elizabeth asked if Keiji was sure, since Keisuke was talking about their father, but Keiji replied that that man was not a father to him. He closed his eyes, bringing the scene back to the past where he begged his father not to leave him and his mother. However, his father had no remorse and had completely abandoned them. Keiji could do nothing but cry and call out to his father. After that, he explained that not long after, his mother became ill. He asked how she was feeling, and she replied that she felt better and would be healthy any day now. Even so, one morning, he found his mother's lifeless body who had passed in the night, leaving behind a newborn chick, Sarah. Their mother had protected the last egg she had and risked her life to incubate it. Keiji cried as he asked his mother why she would sacrifice her life to protect the child of his bastard father. That was when his hatred toward his father began, and he hugged his mother, repeatedly crying out for her, until the scene returned to the present. Keiji said that he did not care that their father left them to start a new family. However, his mother died of a broken heart, and he would never forget that. He said that his father killed his mother and that he would never forgive him. Keisuke did not respond immediately, but after a moment, he apologized for Keiji's mother's death, saying that he did not see how it was directly their father's fault. Keiji asked if that was so, and what Keisuke even know about it. He asked what Keisuke, a child raised by their piece of garbage of a father, knew about his mother. Keisuke asked if Keiji had just called their father a piece of garbage, and Keiji replied that if he did not like the word garbage, then piece of shit worked too. The tension heated up, as Keisuke said that Keiji could think whatever he wanted, but to him, Their father was a loving father and a beloved mentor. He said that he would not tolerate any slander against him, even from Keiji. Elizabeth tried to calm the two of them down, but Keiji stepped closer to Keisuke, and the brothers locked eyes in a stare down. Keiji said that their father was a worthless son of a bitch who deserved to die. Keisuke's anger exploded at that, and he immediately threw a punch at Keiji. Keiji saw it coming and dodged, hopping backward, as Chicken Little told them to stop because fighting was bad. Even so, Keiji charged forward and attempted a flying kick, which Keisuke dodged, causing Keiji to fly past him. As Keiji turned around, Keisuke was already swinging a powerful kick at him. He managed to block it with his wings, but the force sent him skidding across the ground. Keisuke rushed him and attempted a slide tackle, which he avoided with a front flip. He tried to counter with an axe kick, but Keisuke easily swept his legs and followed up with spinning kicks. Keiji backed off slightly, clearly frustrated that he could not land a single hit. Elizabeth and Keisuke were then surprised when Keiji launched another flying kick. He tried to rain down kicks on Keisuke, but they were easily avoided. Keisuke suddenly ducked, and to Keiji's shock, he was hit by a sweep kick, followed by a powerful kick to the stomach. He quickly moved back because of that, and became even angrier. Elizabeth could hardly believe that Keiji was struggling, while Keisuke mockingly asked if that was the limit of his strength. Keiji told his brother to shut up as he charged again, but Keisuke effortlessly parried the flurry of kicks. They fought like roosters in a cockfight, clashing all over the area. In the middle of the exchange, Keisuke noticed that Keiji's movements were sloppy and slow. When they both stepped back from each other, Keisuke told Keiji that they should end it, since there was no point in continuing, and it was clear that he was barely tired at all. In contrast, Keiji was completely exhausted and told Keisuke to shut up, saying he would not stop until he beat him down. Keisuke exhaled sharply and told Keiji to have it his way, saying he would finish the fight. As he said that, he prepared to attack. Keiji was confused as Keisuke uttered the words Hatsu, Bu, and Ten, and at the same time, something seemed to surge from his chest. When Ten was spoken, he spread his wings and planted his feet, making Keiji wonder what he was doing. Keisuke told him that he was coming, and in an instant, he appeared in front of Keiji and kicked him in the stomach, leaving him no chance to dodge. The impact sent ripples through Keiji's body, and the attack was called Turbulent Strike, an extremely fast and powerful kick that launched Keiji like a rocket. He flew an incredible distance and crashed into the ground, kicking up smoke. Elizabeth and Chicken Little were left stunned, while Keiji lay sprawled on the ground in pain. In Elizabeth's thoughts, she realized just how strong Keisuke truly was. In the following scene, the story returned to the abandoned warehouse, and inside, there was not even a trace of the demons. The only one left there was the father of Keiji and Keisuke, hanging in the air by several ropes. At that moment, his blood kept dripping without stopping, and it was noticeable that his body was covered in bruises and that the bleeding would not cease. Even though he was extremely weak, he still called out to one of his sons. Back to where they were, one of his sons was on top of a building. It was Keisuke, deep in thought. He could not believe that Keiji was that weak, and he said that even if they worked together, they would not be able to stand up to the two demons with human bodies. On top of that, he had offended Keiji, so he said he did not know what to do anymore. He was frustrated because even at that moment, his father's life could have been in danger. With how irritated he was, he thought to himself that he had no choice. Then he jumped up to the sky. He added that he could not just give up so easily. After that, the scene shifted to another place by the river, where Elizabeth quietly watched Keiji, who looked deep in thought. In Elizabeth's mind, she said that Keiji still seemed to be still in shock, since that was probably the first time he had ever been defeated. At that moment, Chicken Little hurried over, carrying a worm. She called out to Keiji, and he looked her way. She told him that eating might make him feel a little better, offering him the worm. However, Keiji answered no with anger still in his voice, which made Chicken Little cry. Elizabeth whispered to her that she thought they should leave Keiji alone for the time being. Chicken Little worried about Keiji, while Keiji stayed irritated because he still could not believe the outcome of his fight with Keisuke. In his thoughts, he said he could not keep up with Keisuke's last move at all, and on top of that, The power of that kick was insane. He felt like he was exploding from the inside because of it, and his grip tightened on the rock he was standing on out of rage. He called Keisuke a bastard and said that he would show him his strength. After he said that, Keisuke suddenly appeared behind him and called him brother again, startling him. He jumped back ready to fight and told Keisuke to bring it on, because this time he would crush him. Keisuke replied that that was not why he was there, which confused Keiji. He apologized for what happened earlier and admitted that he was in the wrong. Keiji listened closely, and it was clear from Keisuke's face that he was choosing his words carefully. He added that he had to save their father no matter what, because if he died, the world would fall into the hands of the demons. Keiji was surprised to hear that, and according to Keisuke, their father could not die yet. He pleaded with Keiji to help him rescue their father, even going as far as begging him. Keiji did not answer right away, still carrying the anger he had toward their father, while Elizabeth asked if she could ask something, which surprised Keisuke. She asked what he meant by saying their father could not die yet. He replied that it might shock Keiji that he and their father had been fighting to wipe out the demons. That truly did shock Keiji, while Elizabeth asked why Keisuke and their father were doing that. Keisuke answered that it was the duty of the Gashikadori family. Keiji found that hard to believe, and Keisuke explained that their family and the demons had a long, intertwined history. Only they were capable of stopping the demons. In Keiji's thoughts, he could not believe their father was fighting demons, wondered what Keisuke even meant by talking about a family. Meanwhile, Elizabeth thought about it and asked Keisuke if he could tell them the full story. He agreed after a short thought and began telling what happened 5 days earlier. He and his father were walking around the city, and he told his father that he could feel demons in that town as well, which his father agreed with. His father said he could smell the stench of demons, and at that moment, he suddenly looked startled. He immediately ran and told Keisuke to follow him. Keisuke wondered if they were heading toward a demon, but to his surprise, it turned out to be just a young hen. His father told him to go somewhere else for a moment, but he replied that they needed to track down the demons. However, his father begged him, looking extremely horny, to which he replied that he was scared. Keisuke did not know what to say to that. While in Elizabeth's thoughts, she remarked that it was like father like son, referring to Keiji. According to Keisuke's story, that was where the exciting part happened, because they heard someone screaming. It was a woman who was about to be attacked by a demon with a fish face and fish for hands. The demon asked the woman if she wanted to have fun, but the woman only begged for help. To the shock of the father and son, someone arrived. Keisuke said they needed to save the woman, but his father told him to wait. They watched as the man approached the demon nonchalantly, and it was revealed that he was the same man who had held the father hostage, later into the story. Keisuke wondered about the man, while the demon asked who he was. Instead of answering, the man simply stabbed the demon in the forehead with one finger, just like what happened to Morio, causing the demon's body to collapse. The father and son were stunned, and then the man suddenly sprouted wings from his back, prompting Keisuke's father to tell them to hide. The man began flying away while carrying the demon he had killed. Once he was far enough, Keisuke's father told him to follow the man, and Keisuke agreed to do it. After that, the scene shifted to the abandoned warehouse, with the father and son nearing it as they ran through the forest. Keisuke's father was shocked, because the man was entering the warehouse while still carrying the demon. The man dragged the demon inside and brought it into a room, which the father and son witnessed. Keisuke's father said that the man simply left the demon inside that room, and they quietly watched as he walked away. Once the man left the warehouse, Keisuke's father told him that they needed to investigate the room where the demon had been placed, and Keisuke replied, "Got it." As they ran toward the room, Keisuke's father noticed something that startled him, and he told Keisuke to stop, which confused him. Keisuke was shocked when he saw what his father saw, and he even jumped backward in fear. What they saw was an enormous room filled with demons, and Keisuke was confused because he did not sense any killing intent. His father said it was not just that, because the demons looked empty inside, as if their souls had been removed. His father added that he should look at how many demons were there. He then asked if the man they saw had done all of that alone, and his father replied that if so, what was the man trying to accomplish? Then his father sensed something pass behind him, So he shoved Keisuke and told him to watch out. At the same time, objects struck the ground near their feet. Then something suddenly wrapped around Keisuke's father, which shocked both of them. Keisuke saw two men in front of him, and they were the same two men who had the power to turn parts of their bodies into weapons. The man with a pistol hand did not seem pleased that they only caught Keisuke's father, while the other said he had felt that the father and son were following him. Keisuke wondered what was going on, because he had not sensed them at all. The pistol-handed man asked his companion, calling him Hikari, if that was what they were looking for. Hikari replied that it seemed so, the descendants of the Gashikadori family, and he said what a turn of events it was. Keisuke was shocked and asked how Hikari knew that. Hikari answered that he had heard it from someone above, and it seemed they had many questions for Keisuke. Keisuke was shocked that Hikari could understand him, and he asked the two of them if they were demons. Hikari said they were not demons, because they were devils, the chosen ones. Keisuke found that strange, while Hikari ordered number 31 and 56 to capture him. That was when the six-armed demon moved, along with the demon that had a huge head and an octopus-like body, which shocked Keisuke. He was attacked first by the six-armed demon, and he leapt backward to dodge. In retaliation, he jumped straight at its face to deliver a powerful kick. When he landed, the octopus-like demon attacked him with its tentacles that looked like fingers on the ends. He reacted quickly, hopping around to avoid the tentacles. On his final leap, he jumped onto the roof, and once he reached it, he dove straight down onto the octopus demon's head, almost crushing it from the impact. The demon was badly hurt by that, while one devil laughed and said that was not bad, as he formed a new weapon on his arm. He added that he guesses that he would handle Keisuke himself, then aimed his machine gun arm at him. Keisuke was shocked, and the devil rained bullets on him, forcing him to run to avoid them. He even bounced off pillars and walls just to dodge, and because he was so fast, he was able to run along the wall. When he landed back on the ground, it was clear he had already been hit. Hikari told his fellow devil that they needed to capture Keisuke alive, so the other devil apologized. The scene returned to where Keisuke was about to flee, and he thought to himself that he could fight the two demons, but the two devils were on a completely different level. Hikari told him it was his move, and that was when his father shouted for him to run. Just like earlier, Keisuke did not like it, but he still fled, saying he would come back for his father, so he should hang on. Before long, he reached a parking lot full of cars and rested beneath one. He cursed under his breath and asked himself how he was supposed to save his father. He could not do it alone and needed support, so he thought carefully until he got an idea. He remembered that his father once told him he had a half-brother. His name was Keiji, and the day would come when they would fight together. Because of that, Keisuke realized he had a brother and wondered how he could find him. After that, he began walking around, and as he did, he heard people talking about a chicken. They said there was a rooster who had blown a demon's head off, and one man said it was amazing, which made Keisuke wonder at what that rooster had done. The man holding a phone said he heard that the rooster had been found in H-Town yesterday. Keisuke realized that had to be his brother Keiji. He searched for him after that, and a bird pointed him toward H-Town, 3 mountains away. He also asked a cat, who said he had seen Keiji near the station. The story then returned to the present as Keisuke said that after 3 days of traveling, he finally arrived there. Elizabeth was completely shocked by that, and asked how Keisuke could not defeat his enemies even though he was so strong, and she asked who those devils were. Meanwhile, Keiji was thinking, and Keisuke said that the devils were probably planning something, and who knew what they could do with how many demons they had. Because of that, they needed to stop them. After saying that, Keisuke paused, before admitting the truth that it was impossible to defeat the devils. Even so, he could not abandon their father. No matter what, he did not want to lose him, and as he said that, he began trembling. Silence followed, because Keiji was thinking, while Elizabeth waited to see what he would do or say. It did not take long before she decided it was pointless and let out a breath. She asked Keisuke if he knew where his father was, while she pulled out her phone, which confused Keisuke. He said his father was in a warehouse outside the town in Fujimori, about 50 kilometers away from them, as Elizabeth searched it on her phone. Keisuke asked if that was one of those smartphones, and Elizabeth was surprised that he was familiar with it, saying it was quite handy. In Keisuke's thoughts, he called Elizabeth an amazing bird, as she said there seemed to be multiple demon sightings in Fujimori. While she kept investigating, she was shocked when she saw a demon and immediately called Keiji. She showed it to him and said they needed to check it out in person. Keiji looked at the video and was extremely shocked by what he saw. The demon in the video looked so much like Morio that he wondered if it was him. Chicken Little asked what the kind demon was doing, while Keisuke asked Keiji if he knew the demon in the video. Keiji did not answer right away, because in his thoughts, he was asking Morio what was going on.